Hey, how is everybody doing? It is Sunday, April 30th. So, if you're watching on YouTube, of course, timestamps will be in the description for the readings that are for you. And other than that, we will wait for people to show up and get this live kick-started. Woo! I'm feeling a lot of energy. I almost feel jittery. Hey, people, how's it going? Let me. I'm wondering if there are going to be a lot of people here in a second because I feel a lot of energy. um, I'm just looking at how to. I don't want effects. Get the camera switched around here. Excuse me one second. There we go. Whoop, 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 whoop. Ooh. Hello. How's it going? For anyone who is waiting, hopefully you saw the story that I posted that I'm going live at 2 p.m. instead of, more around like 11:30 or 12 Central Time. I'm just going to probably end up doing the lives a bit later in the day going forward. Hey, Destiny, good to see ya. Official floral roses. Hey, how's it going? I like a later time. Perfect. Me too. And that's why we're doing this. And I'm not sure if I'll stick with 2 or if eventually I'll get to 3, but I'm going to try and keep updating. Yeah, on TikTok. TikTok used to have this, like if you posted a story, it would have like a blue ring around the profile picture. And I don't know if it still does that, but that used to potentially be a good way for me to update people about the lives and what I'd be doing, because there'd be some type of indication that there's like, oh, well, he's not live, but there's that blue ring. What's he say? And then it'd be like, hey guys, something about the live. And I don't know if it still does that. So, hey, I've been listening to your guitar healing all week driving to work. That's so cool. I'd love to get like an album of that done so you guys have something more. I mean, not that that probably sounds bad, but just like good, something that's maybe higher sound quality. Not that the energetic quality is any lesser, but higher sound quality to listen to. So I'll say with that. Glad I caught the update for about the time for today. Yeah, I know. And so I wish TikTok had a better way to update people, honestly. Like, not like a Facebook status, but, like even YouTube has the community things where you can post things. And like, I don't have an easy way to like talk to people that would typically show up for the live and be like, hey guys, I have this update. And to me, that personally feels a bit frustrating because I don't want to frustrate you guys, so I just watch out like a hawk. Oh, that means so much. That means a lot. So I don't know, that's my spiel about it. I think the story worked fine. I caught it as well. Perfect. Yeah. And I suspect most people who are watching out for the lives would probably eventually maybe go to my profile and look for a story update, or maybe not, and that's okay too, but cool. So I mean, we're going to be doing, I'm curious. Never mind. Sometimes I go to say things and they're like, no, don't say that. So if I start to like get redirected a few times in a row, thanks for bearing with me. But we're going to do kind of the Sunday reading. I might hang out for like another second here, but at a certain point, we're probably going to start the reading. So we've got like collective, then, of course, excuse me, zodiac sign elements, sun, moon, and rising, and then channeled message, and then maybe guitar if they'd like to do that, or whatever else would be for that. It's good to get to like Reiki Infused guitar. So we are going to start the reading soon, I'm getting, which is good. We might, I don't know if I should even just talk about this or just see what they have me do in the future. I think I'll probably do that. But I was going to say we might end up switching this up, like the format, but not right now is what I'm getting. So it'd be quite a bit to, actually, they'd probably guide me through it if they wanted me to do it now, but not right now is what I'd say. So, can you please discuss the Angelic Fire Zoom workshop on May 20th? Yeah, before I dive into this, sure. I'm getting to do that. So, what would be highest message for me to bring through on that one? That is a modality that came through to me from the angels and, source, true, highest, most infinite source. And it came through last year. And I started like maybe probably around this time last year, I think is when it started to come together, sometime around this time. And towards the end of last year is when I started teaching classes for it. So it is energy healing as far as a modality goes, but what's the best thing for me to say here? I need to get my elevator pitch put together with them so I'm ready to talk about this more with people. But essentially it's a really potent energy healing modality or tool, if you will use that word. And I don't want to say it like, it's definitely not Reiki, but you can work with it in a similar way. Like you bring the energies through you from source and facilitate sessions. But in that class, you get 4 or 5 different fires to work with that each do different things. They don't want to give me too much. They don't want to give too much away for some reason right now. But I guess like if I were to really summarize, it's a really potent energy healing modality. So, if you're interested, wait, do you teach Reiki? I do teach Reiki. Yes. I think I'm going to keep teaching Reiki. I think depending on what I'm guided to do, I might start leaning more towards the fires, honestly, just because of what I've seen them do for people and how that's been going. But we'll see. I might still end up teaching both. I think, Reiki still has its place. But yes, I do teach energy healing and Reiki and things like that. So I don't know if that was enough. I'm not sure if you had more specific questions on that one, but I will absolutely sit with just a better way to explain that for next time I'm put on the spot. But they do want to jump into the reading soon. And I do need to put together, or it'd be good for me to put together more on my website or create a website for the source fires as the full modality. The 4 angelic fires is the first class. Just so there's more information readily available to people who would like that. Okay, so I need to start the readings. So thanks for bearing with me, anyone who was with me for the just talking about all of that stuff. But we're going to start with which reading should we start with? Collective reading. So the collective reading is meant to be for everybody here, or just anyone who's seeing it. So this will be on YouTube afterwards as well. And it's meant to be timeless. So if you're here live, it's for you now. If you're watching on YouTube later, it's for you whenever you see the reading. So that's how this works. So yeah, I guess we'll just jump into the collective reading. My spirit guides, the angels and source, brought through the channel messages ahead of time. And of course, they'll bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as we roll through these. I'm going to mark it on the whiteboard that we're starting this. And I just do that by circling the square there. The boy. So, okay. Here we go. So for the collective reading, the first thing that came through ahead of time is elephants. And I actually really liked this theme, and this came through in almost like all of the readings. There was something about obstacle removal for like every single reading and all of the signs, if you will. There was a little bit of a slight different twist, I guess, to it for this message for the collective. So with elephant, they showed obstacle removal, but they also showed like, I grew up Catholic, so I remember a ton of stuff from like the Bible. And not that I'm Christian anymore or anything like that. I think the Catholic school beat the Christianity out of me, but, as it tends to do for a lot of people. But that's kind of a joke. Pretty much what happened here with this one is they showed like, there's this quote from the Bible about like removing the log from your own eye before you remove the splinter from your neighbor's or something like that. And that's not really going to apply directly for everyone. Some people see pretty clearly. I don't think blanket statements are always a good idea, even from the Bible. But what they did show was like this elephant, like almost having a log removed from the eye, or it was like some type of message about you having the log removed from your eye, or just people in general right now. And so what they said was there are a lot of obstacles being removed and obstacles to vision being removed. So anything in the way of you seeing clearly is going to be removed. You're going to be seeing clearly. This is especially true for those of you who felt a little bit blind lately, or felt like you've been stumbling around, or anything like that. Also, if anyone's like watching this and they're like angry or like throwing stuff my way or like, I can feel that. So don't mess with me. Just get out of here instead. So essentially with that one, I'm just going to ignore whatever's going on there in the chat there. So, and I don't know, that's just what they're showing is like things being removed from your vision so you're seeing more clearly if you've been feeling like a little bit more stumbling around here. I'd say this message is especially true for those of you who are throwing anything my way right now. So you should probably leave if you're doing that. Next, they showed me, so let's get back to the obstacle removal message though here, with the elephant here. So any of you who have been trying to hit like a target in your life and it's just been obstacle after obstacle after obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, I feel like you're going to have an easier time getting around those obstacles, or you'll see a clearer path to that target, and or you'll just be shown a new target that's better, that has less obstacles. They are kind of showing you being lifted from a bumpy road and put onto a smooth one. So if you need a new target, or if you feel a bit like worn out with your current chase, like I would be, trusting you'll either get a new path soon or you'll have an easier path going forward in some way, shape, or form, if that makes sense. Next, what they showed me were the elephant's tusks, and they just said, you are strong enough to overcome anything you are facing. You can do this. And they kind of just showed the elephant like using its tusks to like knock some obstacles over and things like that, as far as like overcoming anything like that. So I actually am also getting the message like, no, you are going to overcome something big. Many of you tuning into this. For others of you, I feel like you're just going to be brought around the obstacle, kind of like we were talking about like that. So if there are any like challenges you're facing, or you feel like you're just facing more than normal, sometimes, not always, the most resistance comes before success. So yeah, I would just say that you are strong enough to overcome anything you're facing was the message that came through. Next, for those of you tuning in, whenever you're tuning in, they just said this is going to be a week where you're probably going to have to rest a bit more. Not too much, by the way, but like a bit more. So maybe you take off an afternoon you normally wouldn't take off, or anything like that. Future Flowers here says, oh, I'm sorry, Tex Sassy, I thought you were telling Brandon not to be a hypocrite. Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that too, but sometimes people are just like, oh, I agree, and I'm taking the message this way. And so I never want to assume and like blast people in the comments, because I feel like that would be easy for me to get into, like that. I'm literally helping him with the Bible verse. No, and you know what? TikTok Mom 5-0. It's also Mercury in retrograde, so people might have like totally misunderstood what you said there. So, all right, group hug. Let's work it out. Let's get back to the reading here. But thanks for clarifying. So next here, with let's see here. Yeah, they were just, you might have to take a little bit of extra rest this week is what I'd say. Next message with the crocodile, they gave the word viciousness. So with this one, it's not about being vicious towards people or anything like that, but it was about being a bit more like vicious and like going after your dreams. And so, you're probably gonna have to do this around the rest period or afterwards, of course. But, what they kind of clarified is like vicious does not mean bad or evil. In this instance, it just means being a bit more proactive in your efforts and putting a bit more effort in. And they also gave the phrase, like they showed this crocodile. It was almost like a cartoon they showed me. And they gave the little bubble, and it was, it said, you are worthy of your dreams. So if you need to hear that, you are worthy of your dreams. And sometimes I kind of would just wonder if that's a message that just needs to get hammered in a little bit. Because I feel like I don't know if they say it all the time necessarily. I feel like they say it a good amount, but they also wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. And if you need to hear it over and over again until it kind of like lands a bit more, or energetically lands, or whatever happens needs to happen, or it gets to the subconscious, that's okay by me. But this crocodile in this visual was also saying like, hey, you're worthy of your dreams as well. But I'd just be a bit more vicious in a good way in going towards what you dream of and what your targets are. Next message here, they showed me a fire hydrant, and this was like kind of a weird message because they showed people like getting drenched, and pretty much what they said is like a lot of negative fires in your life. So like like there's that phrase like CEOs of companies need to put out fires and things like that. They said like the fires in your life that are negative like that are going to be put out. So that literally was the message. I remember what would be, I have so much for me to say here. Here's what I'm also getting to say is like there might be like subtle fires or things that are lit kind of like under your pants or in certain situations in your life, like just to get things moving. But the other thing they said is like if you don't need those fires, they're probably not going to be there, regarding this message at the very least. So I feel like the second you kind of get things moving regarding those things, or take action and go to handle those things, like certain things that are a bit more destructive are going to leave is what I'm hearing, or that are just making you uncomfortable. I don't want to say unnecessarily, but, and I don't want to say like discomfort's always a bad thing, of course. Like sometimes that's a sign of growth. Sometimes that's just something that's happening, but that's what hopefully you understand where they're going with that message there. Certain things that have been destructive are leaving, essentially is what they're saying. They're also showing me like a paper shredder right now, or like paper being shredded. Kind of a weirder message, but they're just kind of showing like old contracts that no longer serve your or the highest good are kind of leaving, or it's like you've fulfilled some type of like metaphorical like contract somewhere in your life or with like a certain person. So I just feel like certain things that have been like exceedingly difficult are leaving. And like contracts aren't necessarily like my direct like framework. Like if that comes through, what's the best thing for me to say here? I understand what people are talking about when they talk about them. And I understand, to me, my understanding is like it's a way you can kind of work with certain like energies or things to, I guess, like understand things or change certain things, if that makes sense. But I know you already get this because they're telling me you get this. I don't think anyone's literally signing contracts, paper contracts in the etheric and drafting it up in etheric legal court. I don't think those structures exist in the etheric. Like, why would they? But if you want to use that as an understanding for this message and this reading, it's like certain contracts are like done or expired, so you're going to have changes. But I feel like this is a good thing, is what I'd say as well regarding that. So yeah, that's the message. That's the message. I'm a little hesitant on that message, but they're saying it, so I'll bring it through. And again, I want to clarify, it doesn't mean that good things are leaving. It's just like you're done with certain phases or things, and you get it. They're like, they get it. Sorry guys, let's move on. The next thing they showed me was like let me see with this one for a second here. They just wanted to give this message of like just getting out in nature soon, or like to return to nature. They just said nature is going to be a very restorative force for you. So this week, next couple weeks, I feel like it's always a good idea typically to get out in nature, unless your intuition is telling you like, no, you need to stay inside and work or something like that. But just a reminder, because they showed this like a big tall city building, and then like this grass was growing around it and this flower field, and there was moss growing on the sides. I don't like where they're going with this visual, because as I was sitting with this visual, they showed like they showed this like kind of abandoned like city building, and it was something out of like a zombie video game. And I don't like zombies personally. As a kid, they kind of scared me, honestly. I had a lot of zombie nightmares, so I tend to just stay away from anything zombie related, period. And I'm not a big fan of like excessive violence in like movies or things, anyways. Especially anything like graphic, and zombie stuff tends to get a bit graphic. But anyways, why is it? Because they're giving me the word like they're showing me this building. They're giving me the word DayZ. I've never played the game DayZ because I don't like zombie games. I've seen like videos on it, and like I kind of understand what it is. But as far as why they're showing it to me here, what's going on here? So if you need to hear this, there isn't going to be an apocalypse. Like there is not going to be an apocalypse, is what I'm getting in this lifetime, at the very least. And if there is going to be one, it's not going to be for a while, a very long time. So if you needed to hear that message, like that's just what I'm getting for you guys, for anyone who needs to hear it right now as well. And if you're ever worried about that, just manifest the opposite. Be like, okay, what will it take for there to be, for us to be free from an apocalypse and things are thriving and heading in the highest and best directions for us all, for the highest good. Thanks so much. And like, what I'm getting is there's not even going to be a thing like, you remember those like people, and I don't know. Do you remember all those people that were like talking about like ascension in like 2012, and they said like, oh, once ascension happens in 2012, everyone's going to evaporate off the face of the earth and we're all going to become non-physical beings. And then it like didn't happen. Like I don't even feel like something like that's going to happen. That's not what I'm getting either. So I'd keep paying attention to your physical life and working on it and making it the best you can, because you might be here for a while, just letting you know. And I really feel like things are also being steered away from apocalyptic outcomes by the collective and source in general. So keep asking for the highest and best timelines, and asking for ease and grace for the collective and for yourself, and making things as good as you can. Like it's working is something I'm saying. And we're also averting a lot of disasters is what I'd say as well. Like, most of them, if not all of them, not going to happen. Of course, there might still be some crazy things happening in the world. I don't feel confident promising like no crazy things will happen in the world ever. Everything's going to be great. Yay. I don't necessarily 100% feel that either, but a guy can dream. But let's move on here. You understand what I'm saying. Next, so here's it might seem a little bit indirect or weird. They even preface this that way, but they said for you guys, obstacles will leave if you are taking care of yourself. So if you want to do something active besides what you might already be doing to remove obstacles in your life, take a little bit of extra time for like taking care of yourself and self-care, like nutrition, rest, getting out in nature, doing things you enjoy, making your life one you can enjoy to the best of your ability. And I understand sometimes people are going through something, not always, sometimes, you're good and great. And hopefully that's where most of you are at. And a lot of you are there, which is fantastic. But to the best of your ability, and you don't have to feel great while you're doing it. That's probably, if you're not feeling great, this could be part of why you're doing it, but take some time to take care of yourself and make sure you're taken care of. And that's going to be a way to help remove obstacles for you. And it could be a weird, as above, so below thing. As you are taking care of yourself, so it's okay, and the obstacles start to go away. And again, they even said it, it sounds weird and indirect, but sometimes we get these weird intuitive pieces of advice that it seems unrelated for what it's helping with, but it's actually kind of not. And there could be certain things that are direct with this that taking care of yourself will handle. So for example, they want me to tell you this whole example because at least some of you need to hear it. But they're clarifying maybe it would be helpful for all of you to hear it in some level. But I remember one time I just had a ton of, I don't want to say I had issues with anxiety, and I'm sure a certain amount of it, or maybe even a good amount of it, was picking up on other people's stuff. But I had a lot of things that seemed like anxiety popping up. And I remember one day, I think I had the person, I wasn't living with anyone at the time, but I had the person I was dating over, and we cooked like a slightly different meal than I normally would have had, and they added broccoli to it. And I literally had one broccoli head and ate it. And something about the nutrition in the broccoli, like my body like instantly felt like relieved, and like this anxiety just like melted away. I'm like, was I literally experiencing some form of anxiety because I just wasn't eating right for this time period? I felt so silly. I felt pretty silly in that moment, to put it more nicely. But it's really funny how just taking care of those physical things and like, making sure your body's nutritionally taken care of and you're taking care of yourself on that level can really remove some of the angst that you might be feeling otherwise. So if you need to hear that or recommend that to a friend, I'm not saying go eat broccoli or else. I'm just giving you an example of my silliness so you can avoid the silliness yourself there. um, and, I do try to eat well and, for myself, but, just in general, and I'm doing a lot better with that now in general, or I'm trying to. And I've been feeling a lot better as I've been just doing things that are nutritionally better for me. But yeah, I think sometimes for me, I was kind of very caught up in just like coming out of a very busy time where I didn't necessarily like have as much time to put into, that focus. And I probably should have made the time anyways, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. Just there you go. That's kind of it for the collective. There might be one message here, and they kind of bring this through every now and then, but they're showing this like vault and like this keyhole. And it's not like a camera per se, but as my intuitive visuals zoom through the keyhole, there's like this treasure chest, and it's like a pirate treasure chest. And they're giving me the words Pirate's Cove as well. And I know they bring this visual through every so often with these lives and these readings. But there is, what I like, a good message here is there is a lot more treasure coming than you realize. There is the word patience coming along with it, though. I feel like you are actually going to have to take care of yourself to get it in a very, very strange way. It's almost like the more you take care of yourself, the more treasure you start to unlock for yourself. And like, they're kind of showing me this contract thing again. And I don't know if you want to say like it's in some type of contract for this time period. And again, that's not my framework, but it's coming through as a way to give this message, I guess. And I actually don't really like how I feel as I'm delivering this message. So I feel a little bit hesitant on it, but let me sit with it just a second longer here. I don't know. I guess the short version is, if you're taking care of yourself more, you're going to have more treasure unlocked, which is kind of what they also said with the obstacles being removed here. But again, you're worthy of the treasure. I feel like more of it's coming in. It's just, we're kind of maybe even in the cleansing phase that brings that in more as well, if that makes any sense. But if it feels like things are behind lock and key for you and you're having trouble unlocking things right now, I would just take some extra time to rest and take care of yourself and see what opens up as a result of that. And I think I told this story last week as well, but in case it's helpful, I'll tell this story again. And then we'll move to the fire signs. But there was one time, this was actually kind of recent, and this might just be someone else who's listening that needs to hear this today, or a few people. Rest to me, it's not different. It's easier for me now, honestly, but I did have a good period of time where I just felt very, and I still do feel driven, but I was very like driven. And so I would literally like try to work, like I needed to get better at scheduling, but I would try to work like every day, like for like social media or like another project I was working on, or for like whatever I had going on. And I'd get very frustrated if I hit days where like the universe was trying to like get me to rest and I couldn't work. I'd feel very like about it for whatever reason. And you could say that was some type of programming I was working on undoing or something, but societal programming, whatever. But I remember sometime recently, I had a day where I was like, I got up and I kind of felt like it, in some ways it could be a good work day, but I was just like, man, I am not feeling it. And I opened my emails and there was an email from a lady who I haven't even really like worked with her. She was on a podcast one time and I'm not even sure what prompted me to sign up for her newsletter, but I did. And she goes by SARK. It's like an acronym, SARK. And in this email, I just kind of like scrolled through it on a whim for a second. And she had this like little tidbit on like rest. And she also had this little drawing that she did with like a little message. And it was like a bed. And she just kind of does these like colorful little posters and drawings, or she used to, or whatever. And at the top of this image, it said like rest and a miracle will probably happen. And for me, those are the signs that I listen to, because I mean, the universe wouldn't show you that sign if it wasn't going to be true that if you rested, some type of miracle would happen. And that's pretty much exactly what happened. I just took that day to kind of like really chill and like rest and focus on other hobbies, and pretty much not move except to like do one little thing that I already had prepared to just like, send out into the world or post. And something miraculous did happen. Like something actually like really happened for me. So I don't know if that's your sign to take a little bit of extra rest. And I'm not saying to just not do anything all week unless you're sick and really need to, but, balance that out. But you understand what I'm saying. And I'm getting someone needed to hear that. So glad to help if that was helpful. Okay, let's move. I feel like there's one more actually. I'm sorry. Before we move on, they're showing me this pillar, and they're giving me the phrase pillar of strength as well. And they give me the phrase. So let me say with it. If you need to be a pillar of strength, because they're giving me the words crunch time as well. And I'm going to ask them to blend this in with the other message as well so it sits right. But if you need to be a pillar of strength anytime in the near future, or like right now regarding things going on in your life or work or anything, I would do that. I almost feel like I get this message like crumbling is not an option. Not all of you are going to need to be this, I don't think. This is for maybe even just like the few of you who just like have a ton going on, or you are holding it down for others. But if you feel like you are having to be a pillar of strength right now, fortitude is going to pay off. I would take a little bit of extra time if you can outside of that to rest and balance that out that way. But if you're having to be a pillar of strength right now, like keep doing it. Like you're going to make it is what I'd say. Like I don't even feel like you are going to crumble if you keep doing this, regardless of how you feel, or if you're crying a lot with whatever is going on or anything like that. Like I'd really hang in there. Like it's not. They're saying they're equating this to a fire again, and they're just saying that negative fire or destructive fire, whatever it is like not going to last forever, if that makes sense. So anything else before we move on? I feel like that's kind of it, but I still feel stuck on the collective reading because they are showing me a snail as we go to close out here. If you are having a really hard time right now, which is probably not going to be all of you, I would take things a bit slower. I would be gentle on yourself as well, and just do your best. And, sometimes even just doing your best gets rewarded by the universe, even if it's not as much as you would like it to be, or you feel like it isn't as much as someone else. Like if you're really having a hard time, like do your best and count that as a win, and try not to compare yourself to others. Like eventually you can build yourself up to doing really well and get out of that period. But that's just another message they have for anyone who's having a bit of a harder time right now and needs to hear that. So I hope that is helpful here. But beyond that, I feel like certain cloudiness is leaving for the collective, and like there will be some clearer skies ahead, especially after this like Mercury in retrograde and eclipse season. And I feel like positive shifts are ahead. So that's fantastic. Outside of anything else we talked about already. So we're gonna move to the fire sign, Sun, Moon, and Rising. Give me 1 second to whiteboard. Let's whiteboard things. I'm going to circle it after I drink water. Thank you. It's helpful. Perfect. You're welcome. Oh no. I hope I'm not getting sick. I just realized that might be been in like a slightly weird voice to say that in, but whatever. I was being a little silly, but my throat is feeling a little something. And the person I'm dating is physically sick, so we'll see what happens. Oh, And of course, I start coughing as I start talking about it. So I'm going to stop talking and focusing on it. I'm going to ask for good health and vitality and thriving in all ways for the highest good. And we're going to move to the fire signs. So if you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is for you when you see it. My son and I have a sore throat. No, feel better. I'm asking the angels to send you some healing and some light there to help. 1 second here. So for the fire sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is for you when you see it. Of course, if you hear it now, it's for you now. If you're watching on YouTube, it's for you whenever you see it. But got the chain of messages that came through ahead of time, and my spirit guides, the angels and source will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as I roll through these. And I know I say that a lot, and sometimes I say that just in case anyone's new here or just kind of jumping in here. And also maybe it's just comforting for those of you who listen and hear it all the time, or it just kind of sits right in the habitual mind as you come to these readings. But and they'll change it up at the right time if they need to, but or maybe not really. But anyways, the first message that came through, and this did come through for like almost everyone here and every single reading here, like there is a huge obstacle removal for you, a major theme right now. I feel like you're just going to be like going forward, which is, in the highest and best ways for the highest good. I feel like there just won't be many obstacles for you, at least for a phase here, at least for some time going forward. And if you feel like there are, I feel like you're having an easier time traversing them than you realize, or, sometimes it feels like if you are going through like obstacle after obstacle after okay, I can't get it out. And usually when I can't get the message out, it's not the message. But what they were showing me is even if you feel like you're jumping over hurdle after hurdle or something like that, and it seems like a lot, which I don't feel like it will, because they're like, which it won't, sometimes like you feel like you're going through that, but you look back and you're actually like flying through the obstacle course, so to speak, metaphorically. So you're doing better than you realize. But sometimes you're like held back until you learn a lesson, or you have a certain mindset, or until you're really ready for certain things. But once you're there and you have that in place, it's time, so the obstacles get removed and the universe forges the path, and you can dance all the way there, I guess. The next message that showed up, they showed me a fireman, like a firefighter, like putting out like a house fire. And essentially like they just said this kind of came through in the collective, I think, but any like negative raging fires in your life are going to be put out soon, like especially if there's been like a ton of destruction. In that, I guess that destruction could be more in the past as well. But I feel like it's kind of time for, and you know what? I want to kind of balance this message as well, but I'm getting it's like time for certain amounts of destruction to end. I don't always feel like destruction is negative as well when it comes through in a reading, because it's sometimes we like actually want something to just go. Like we have like a job that sucks, and we want that destruction to roll through and get us to a better job, but in a way that's filled with ease and grace for us, of course, or we want certain things that are holding us back to get completely obliterated. Like sometimes the path of destruction is exactly what we are craving in our lives. Not always, but if you've had like a bunch of destruction that's been like difficult, and like maybe you felt like you were rebuilding, and then like another tornado and came and like wrecked your shack that you were building to replace your your old home or things like that. It's like it is going to get easier eventually. And again, like that you get the message at this point. That's what they're kind of saying with that one. They're also showing these like strong winds blowing, and they're giving me the phrase strong winds are blowing. It is winds of change is what I'm getting. But it's also like a wind that's leading you in the right direction. And we can see like excessive winds metaphorically like this. What's the best way to say this? Some people might see it as a bad thing if they don't want things to change. However, like a sailor at sea who's like going on an adventure or trying to travel is going to love that wind, essentially. I'm not sure why I was getting the message like covet and envy that wind. That makes no sense to me, but maybe that's a sign for some of you. Very strange. But they're going to love that wins. And depending on the winds and the, well, I don't want to get into like airplane travel with winds, but I mean, sometimes you have a favorable wind when you're flying, right? So I feel like this wind is a good thing and it's headed in the right direction. So I would just kind of roll with it. Next, they show me a spider and like a spider web. And like with the spider web, what the message was is like they showed someone kind of like getting caught up in like a spider web or like trying to like get the sticky web off of them. And the message was like about getting caught up in things that don't matter. So the message is like, make sure your focus and efforts are on things that matter to you. So not like gossip and not like what people think or things that are just kind of a waste of time necessarily. And I feel like I'm going to have to quantify this, but the message was like, it'd be good for you to be focused more on forging a better life for yourself and on things that actually matter and hold value to you. So, and they said it again, like, don't waste your time on gossip. So I'm not trying to like, I'm not judging you for if you are. It's like it sometimes it happens. People get swept up into it, or they have a friend and it's just easy to just kind of be polite and just kind of listen to someone gossip. Like I understand, but don't make it your main focus or anything like that. And you can set boundaries with those people if it becomes excessive, or you can like be like, I don't really feel like talking badly about anyone right now, so do you mind if we change the conversation? Or there's varying degrees of ways you can set boundaries with that, but depending on how severe or you can steer the conversation, whatever. But all that being said, the other side of this message is they showed like the stickiness. They kept giving me the word sticky. They just said like, be sure you are like around people that bring you up and not down, like in your personal life, people you watch online. And my intention and my hope is that I'd be someone who always helps bring you up and never down, of course. Always part of my intention, but in some way, shape, or form. But sometimes there are people who are just a bit more like negative, and they tend to be a bit like stickier with that, and like just try to kind of keep your distance from those people if you can. And sometimes you're just like, hopefully not, but sometimes depending on your work situation or family situation, there's like times where you just kind of seem stuck with people who are a bit like kind of have that almost like negativity or like stickiness, and just do your best is what I'd say. And keep your crystals on you and your protective gear and all that. Do your etheric for the highest good exercises to help yourself, but just do your best is what I'd say. And sometimes if your best is all you can do, that will be rewarded is what I'd say. And sometimes if you need a better way, that'll be shown to you eventually, or ask for it. Ask the universe for better ways to deal with those situations. So a little bit more with this one here. If you feel stuck in a certain situation, on another side of this message, I feel like you're not going to continue to be stuck to it, if that makes sense. Like there's a certain amount of like stickiness in your personal situations that's leaving. It could be partially because, as I'm filming this, it's eclipse season. It is timeless, so it could just be you're in this energy whenever you're seeing it. But there is a lot of unstuckness coming in. So a lot of you might be brought out of sticky situations, or things you felt a bit more trapped in are just going to be easier to bust out of or leave, which will be good. Next, they showed me an elephant. An elephant was very common today, as it is. Elephants has been a very common spirit animal in general with these readings, and I've gotten more comfortable with it because before, as I would do these readings, if I had like an animal, like a spirit animal or like a symbol show up over and over and over again, I'd start to get a little bit like, because I'd feel a bit redundant, or I'd feel a bit like, are you sure, guys? Like I said this like 5 times and like this week, or like this with these lives or anything. But they bring through so many varieties of different messages from the same symbol sometimes, or if it's just what's for the highest good. Sometimes there's new people who see them, or someone that might be synchronistic for them or important to them. So I just trust it now. But they showed the elephant's like skin. And they also showed this very strange visual of like, I don't like this phrase, and it was kind of weird and wasn't like a great visual, but like things like, you know how there's like the concept of things like breaking through the skin, or like when someone bites you, it's like they'll talk about like, oh, you broke skin or things like that. But there was a message that like if things are really, really bothering you right now, like really take a step back and just like try different things in your life. Like if things are irritating you, try different directions, like try something different. I almost want to say, even if it seems unrelated, like they're bringing, give me one second here. And sorry, like sometimes as people like scroll by potentially, and I'm not trying to blame anyone who's scrolling by now, like I'll just pick up on different energies, or I'll pick up on something and it's just like, ooh, get out of here, or just something. So if I like pause and like do weird things with my hands, sometimes I'm just like shooing an energy out of here, or just like sitting with a second and double checking things. But and I feel like the better way to deal with that I found is just telling you guys what's going on as it comes up. And then it's a lot more comfortable for all of us. But anyways, what I was talking about with like the breaking skin things and trying different things, like another thing I could say is like, even if it seems unrelated, like maybe like work's really bothering you, like maybe if you go on a run, like try going on a run in a different direction than you normally would, or try a different hobby, or try doing something else outside of work. And maybe it's going to take trying something else at work too, and trying different directions there. But if things are like constantly irritating you all the time, I just feel like it's time to try something different. And I hope that's helpful advice, and you understand in the context of what you're going through, what they're talking about with that one here. Because it's kind of like time to metaphorically get away from the things that keep breaking through the skin, if that makes sense. Next, they showed me a mammoth, and mammoths they don't show up as much for readings like elephant. Sometimes they do, but there were a couple different things they got to with this visual and the symbol. But for the highest good, bigger things are coming your way than you realize in life, like bigger shifts, bigger changes, bigger realizations. It doesn't necessarily mean like all your hopes and dreams are coming true tomorrow. That'd be cool if it does. I'm not going to limit it and say it can't, but I'm not going to be super irresponsible and promise it will unless I'm getting that message. But the rest of what they had to say is like, it does mean like you should prepare for some bigger shifts coming in here. The other thing they kept showing with this mammoth was it was like shaking its like fur, and it was like shaking off all these like bugs, and they kept giving me the word termites, but termites aren't something that I think would be on a mammoth, because termites aren't like, usually I'd think of like fleas or like other types of pests. They did give a message with termites. In that message, I'm jumping ahead with that. So what's up with the mammoth shaking off the bugs and things like that here? I feel like part of the changes are like just shaking certain things off and moving in different directions with the message of termite, because I had a message with that specifically that was a bit separate. Like, because they gave the phrase eating away, and they just said you are going to be healed regarding things that have been, or get healed regarding things that have been, eating away at you. So whether that's like an energy or a person or a worry or a concern or things going on in the world or news, I feel like it's time to divert your focus elsewhere and focus on the positive and things you can change. And you do have some type of healing coming in regarding things eating away at you, which is good as well. I feel like you need that. I get this reminder every so often with these readings, and there's also talking about cleansing your energies. And this is for like everyone here, I don't even think it's just for the fire signs, but I would try to potentially like cleanse your energies frequently if you feel like you need that or would be helpful, like just something every day at the end or the beginning of the day, or something to get like something to get other people's energies off of you, things like that. I feel like that's going to be helpful for you as well. So there's at least one more message before we switch to the other readings here, or the next reading that, for the earth signs here. And what's up here? So interestingly enough, they're showing like the other side of this termite message, or just a different message in general. They're showing this like wooden structure. And they're showing the kind of the termites like running around on it and stuff like that. I feel like they're being exterminated, honestly, because there's this exterminator doing extermination work in this visual as we're sitting with this. But it's like the structure of your life is sound for at least many of you turning in, but I want to say all, and it's like not going to collapse. So Sure, maybe there's like some area over here that needs a bit of, well, I don't even think that's the message though. Like if you need to do a bit of work on things or expand the metaphorical house or things like that, that's fine. But I was getting straight up as the message, like the structural integrity is there, like it's not going to collapse. And uh, some of you feel like you're living in like a little like dilapidated hut structurally wise in a weird way. Like you almost like you feel like things are going to collapse, but it's like structurally it's almost like you're living in a mansion that's really like sturdy and secure, and it has hurricane windows and like all this stuff. So you're just like a lot more sturdy than you realize, a lot of you. And you might be afraid of certain things going on in the world, and I totally understand that, but a lot of your, in a good way, for the highest good, a lot of your structures are sound. So, and I know there's, okay, I was going to get into a whole different meaning of that, but hopefully you understand like what I'm getting to, or what they're getting to rather, with that message here. Okay, time to move on to the earth signs. So hope that was helpful and did whatever was for your highest good regarding that reading for the fire signs. So thank you. Boop, boop, boop. Sometimes I really get into just my own zone, and I start doing the beep boops and the weird noises. So thanks for bearing with me on that one. Thought I needed to hear no collapse. Perfect. Yeah, you'll be fine, is what I'd say, Marina. If something like, I don't even think it will, because the second I went to say it, they're like, no, but if something does collapse, it'll get rectified like right away. So I wouldn't even worry too much here. That one. So they actually help the messages. Perfect. Awesome. Love the beep boops. Keep them coming. All right. You asked for it. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we'll keep it rolling. Well, I think, I mean, the 2-year anniversary for me going live every Sunday came and went, and I completely forgot to mention it. And they don't even seem to fully want me to mention it now. Because the first live I did on TikTok was actually like Valentine's Day 2021, I think, which is a funny day to have that happen. So I've been doing this not every week, because there have been some weeks I haven't gone live, but almost every week for like 2 years now. So I get a little bit comfortable, I think, sometimes with just the singing and the beep boops and stuff. So and sometimes I'm just in the zone and it just happens. So I don't know, but I'm going to have a little bit more water, and I don't know why they're showing me selenite right now as well. Could just be an important crystal for everyone here while we're talking here. They're also showing me like a necklace made out of alternating like selenite and citrine pieces, and there's also like a blue apatite or something green in there as well. So I don't know if any of you make jewelry, but that could be a cool idea if anyone needs that idea. I don't know. They showed me these like chunky little like selenite, like like the selenite sticks, and they're usually, when they're sold, they're in like 3 inches or so. That's not the right 3 inches. I don't know. They're like 3 or 4 inches usually, and they're like a little rectangular prism. Is that the way you say it? And is that the correct shape terminology? It was almost like that, but it was like an inch long instead, like these tiny little like rectangular chunks, and then like alternating with like citrine smooth tumbles, and then and maybe there's like a dangly part with like a blue apatite, or there's like a blue apatite in the center that's like the center piece that like rests around here at the bottom of the necklace. I don't know. So let's move on. Earth signs. So if you have an earth sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is for you when you see it. Got channel messages that did come through ahead of time. And of course, my spirit guides, the angels, and source will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good as I roll through these. So, if you're wondering if like your guys' spirit guides come through at any time when I do the readings, what I always get when I check in is like, if it's for the highest good and for the highest good of both of our systems, that can happen. But it really depends on what you need and what would be for the highest good of the reading. And whether it's yours are jumping in or not, like either way, the spirit guides are all-knowing and infinitely wise, infinitely intelligent, and it's coming from that higher place. So in some ways, it doesn't matter is what I'd say. And it can in certain circumstances, but those are the times where, for the highest good, someone else's, spirit guides would participate for the highest good. So anyways, let's move on here to the first message. They showed me a UFO for the earth signs. UFOs have been coming through as a symbol for the earth signs in the live readings, like a lot, interestingly enough. Like it's been a very common thing, kind of like starting, I almost want to say 6-ish months ago, maybe a bit more recently, but actually like maybe even a year or like 9 months ago, but closer to like 9 months, I think. The message here for you is like there's a huge healing to you regarding spirituality, spiritual concepts, etc. If you have been worried about things spiritually, you are going to be healed regarding them, especially if you are like afraid or something happened that's made you afraid. So I do have an example for you, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but actually I'm getting it might be better if I kind of did. So, okay. Because at least it's potentially bringing more truth is what I'm hearing. So I want to do this in the highest and best ways that are fully for the highest good here, though. So what would be highest and best for me to say here? So you know how like oracle card decks will have like little descriptions for the cards, and oftentimes the author will kind of pound their spiritual teachings into and like bake them into the card meaning sometimes. But sometimes those are more harmful than good if they're not coming from a connected place that's intuitive and accurate of true highest and best infinite source. And it's coming more from an author's like, and my intention is to never do this. I ask and pray that I'm never just putting projections and crappy opinions that are harmful out there, like ever. I never want that to be my path, but I would actively like to never have that as part of my path. But, sometimes there's these concepts and they'll kind of just say what they think or their opinions or what they read in a book and regurgitate it. And it's just not, maybe for some people it's like what they need, or maybe the lesson is like what I went through and I get something out of the experience, but I still never want to be a part of putting it out into the world and doing that to people. But for instance, there might be something in a card deck. Okay, I am avoiding giving the specific example, and they're telling me to give the specific example. So I will do that. Okay, leaving the comfort zone. But, an example for me personally was literally it's the Archangel Oracle by Diana Cooper. And in these cards, she kind of hones in over and over and over again. It's like, oh, if you're not grateful enough, the angels will she doesn't literally say this. I'm kind of paraphrasing, but the way I was taking it was like the angels will like pulverize you and drop you and all your good things will be taken away because you're not grateful. And it was almost like felt, even if she didn't intend it this way, it almost felt more like punishment or like punishment versus reward kind of thing. And one, it didn't feel true to me. Two, my guides and like the angels were like, that's not how it works necessarily. And I think there is a lot that is good in being grateful and appreciative. And I would 100% like recommend those things and all that. But to me, the way that it was phrased in some of those cards was more harmful than good. And it just, I felt weird and like worse energetically and spiritually as I read them and like sat with that, as opposed to how I normally felt with like how I'd get and like what I'd get with spiritually. And one time as I was doing that, like that had happened and I was like, is that true? Am I doing this wrong? Because I don't want to put out the wrong information for people either, if that happens to be true. So sorry for all the dings here. That being said though, what happened was I was scrolling through TikTok and one of like this like Reiki video popped up. And full disclosure, half the time an energy healing thing pops up on TikTok or a lot of different things from that are more spiritual. My God, you're like, scroll. Like the second I see it, they're just like, scroll, don't watch. But this one they had me stay for. And it was about like it was like healing, spiritual healing. Or it was like about healing spirituality or something like that. And the thing that started to shift and change energetically for me as I sat with that video and that Reiki video were those concepts that I read from the cards. And I'm so sorry. I feel like I could have said it more succinctly or more directly, like what exactly like bothered me about it or like wasn't true. And I'm going to ask them to clarify it more for you guys so it makes more sense if it didn't make sense in the first place. But those concepts, and I felt that energy that I felt that was like weird, like from the cards, shift and start to leave. And I start to get more back to like what I was getting on it and feel like, okay, no, like that's So it was very interesting, like the way either my reality shifted or my energy shifted because of those cards was being healed from that spiritual healing. So that could be something that's happening for you or something akin to that. Hopefully you understand what I'm saying. And it could be different as well. Like it could be happening regarding this like healing for you regarding spirituality, where like if you were like sold concepts that were more fear-based and like you need to release them or get like, you know, get back to like what's true for you or in highest and best aligns, or what's true, period. Or, you know, what's the best way to say this? If you have a lot of fear regarding something because someone like dumped fear on you or like dumped some like weird sticky energies on you as they like vomited their fear-based stuff on you, which you know, sometimes I have to, I don't want to know if I want to say watch my energies, but sometimes like even in like the comments on like videos, like people will just be like vomiting an energy at you that's just like fear-based, and they're trying to like tell you how it works, but you just feel from their energy through the comment and the energy of the comment that it almost feels more like they were trying to like mess with you, or like it was almost like an attack in a weird way. Or I don't know like if I buy into attacks and psychic attack and all that stuff so much either, but you just feel from the energy like it's just not good and it's not true. And you know, so but sometimes like you have to like almost shake it off, like that energy. So things like that even could be healing. Like if people just kind of like, it could even be from other people posting, and I'm not trying to talk bad about everyone here, but it could be other people posting on like, you know, different platforms that just kind of spewing their opinions and like blah, you know. So if you like either bought into that or you got some doubt or some type of weird energy or felt weird and kind of questioned things because of like those sorts of things, I feel like that's exactly what's being healed, or things similar to those situations, if that makes any sense. So and they're also kind of bringing through a message just like, you know, be mindful and aware of like who you listen to, and like how do you feel energetically after like imbibing what they're saying on you know, from any, could be a book, could be, you know, a video, and like really pay attention to that is what I feel called to say as well. And it's been something that's been on my mind to say recently for some reason. Like it's just kept being something that I just keep thinking about, that I've been like wanting to say, but I also like hesitate because I also just don't want to be like throwing people under the bus or just speaking badly about people. So, but if you consistently notice you're listening to someone and you just feel worse energetically, or just feel off, or like or like icky, I think it's just time to give that person a break, or just try to find the people who you feel better after listening to. And you know, you have to use your discernment and intuition on this, or it'd be good to, and I guess it would always be good to, as like sometimes like, you know, if you're listening to or watching like an energy healer, like, yeah, sometimes something like comes up to be released. But that's going to feel a lot different as you get it honed in and you kind of get aware of these things than like you just picking up on something that's not quite right for you, you know, with that individual you're watching. So they liked how I worded that now. So at least that ending part. So let's move on here. I hope that made sense and was helpful for you. One thing I do also feel called to say that I'm getting to say is to trust yourself, trust your own intuition, especially as you realize that's honed in and you're getting accurate information, and trust that over people who are just spouting whatever, and that's going to be very, very helpful for you. And if you find people that are trustworthy to watch, and hopefully I would pray I'm one of them, of course, and always do my best to be that. However, if you find people who are trustworthy, great, awesome. But you understand right now. So let's move on here. I'm done harping on that, and hopefully I got that point across eloquently enough. Actually, there's one more thing they'd like to get to before we move on here. If there have been any mindsets that have been sold to you, like spiritually, from other people, even if it's like from the beginning of your journey, and they like kind of stuck with you, or it's been like kind of difficult to discard, even if you know it's like not true, or it just isn't good for you, I feel like you're going to be brought out of that soon as well. If that makes sense. There's like a massive cleanse regarding that for some reason. So next message here. They show me a mammoth here, and the message was like major changes ahead. So we kind of already had that for the fire signs in a certain way, but they showed like a tsunami of change. And I'm actually getting, you are going to like these. So change is going to lead you to what you desire was the other part of this. So sometimes what we desire is just, it sounds very obvious, but it's on the other side of change, right? And new things, or things like that. There was a quick addendum that they just had, like, I don't know why they added this in, but they said, like, you are protected, and like protected from the worst of the world's issues. I feel like you even have a lot of divine protection regarding things that other people are going through, that are like close to you. So I would just know you're divinely protected. So that's kind of the message, but I would definitely flow with the changes. And I'm getting this message for you where it's like, remember, any changes that are going on are probably leading you to something you asked for. And I don't mean like, something you manifested, right? So I do mean something you manifested. Sorry, that came out in a weird way. It's probably leading to something you manifested or been asking for from the universe, etc. So keep that in mind. Next message here. They said you are on the right track. So if you need to hear that, you are on the right track. They're also saying you're not moving in circles. Maybe some of you feel like you're moving in circles and are like tired, but I feel like you're actually moving upward in a spiral. And I know that's kind of like a cliche spiritual thing, but that's what they're showing me and saying, so I'm going to say it. Next, they showed me volcanoes erupting, but this is like a kind of an interesting message. Because like the volcano was either... I'm not sold on that. Okay, I'll tell you what came through ahead of time, and if they want to bring in a more in-depth message, they'll do it. But this volcano was like erupting ice. And the message was like, things are actually going to be different than you expect. So like, a volcano, you'd normally expect like magma or like a specific thing to happen. But if it started erupting like ice and like, frozen bits, you'd be like, what the heck's going on? So things are going to be like different than you expect. Not everything is as it seems was a message that came through, which sounds a little, I'm not going to pre-qualify it as cheesy, but the next part of this is they said the universe is really trying to switch things up for you to kind of keep it interesting. So I don't feel like this is going to be negative. I just feel like you're going to be expecting one thing and getting another in like a lot of different areas, if not every area. But again, I don't feel like this is a bad thing at all. I think it's, if you've ever, okay, I have a whole like quick line of stories they want me to tell you. Cause I remember sometimes you like order something in a restaurant, but you get the wrong thing. But that wrong thing is exactly what your body needs and is actually really delicious, or things like that. There is a story kind of similar to that in this book called Being You Changing the World Is Not the Time by Dr. Dane Here, where he talks about like this concept of, if you're eating something and your body, it's something your body needs or really desires, it'll taste like orgasmic. Can I say that word on TikTok? Whatever. I said it. And what I found is like, as I've honed that in or like tried that or made that kind of something that I was like, yeah, let's do that, is that starts to show up. And so I have a lot of interesting stories with that one as well. But, sometimes you kind of get something different than you expect, but it's like better, or it's like, it's exactly what you need. And that could be happening as well. The other thing I'm kind of getting, and it's a little bit different. Like if you are intuitive and you channel messages and it's accurate and you're accurate, like I feel like that's one thing. Like you'll get accurate messages on like what to do or what not to do, etc. And you'll kind of get accurate messages about things that are upcoming if you're supposed to, at the very least. And at the same time, sometimes people will like pre-qualify their experiences. What do I mean by that? Like, what's the best way to say this? Maybe it's like someone invites you to hang out at a certain part of town, or there's an event in that certain part of town, and you're like, oh, that certain part of town always sucks, or something like that. But what if it's different this time? It's kind of what I'm getting. If you're getting to go to this event intuitively, or you're not sure, what if it actually is like the best experience you've had anywhere yet? So try not to, unless you're getting like intuitive information on something, try not to pre-qualify things and miss out on things that could actually be really great because you think they won't be, if that makes sense. And trust yourself on like, that. Next, they just kind of gave a quick message. They just said like surprises are huge for you right now. So you might be getting a lot of surprises. They're also showing like birthday surprises and birthday balloons. I guess like some of you could be a Taurus. We're in Taurus season, so that it could be your birthday sometime around here. Excuse me. I don't think it has to be your birthday for this to apply to you regarding the surprises, but I just feel like there's a lot popping up that you're not expecting. I mostly want to say this is good, actually. There's a lot that you like with this. I feel like it's all positive in some way, shape, or form or another is what I'd say as well. It's not like you have a scorpion popping up and stinging you and you're like, unless you live in Arizona. And I'm just kidding. I don't think that'll happen even then. That's not what the message is supposed to be at all. The next message here, they showed me a grasshopper. There was a message that big leaps are required. And potentially it's really time to change your life and to not keep things the same. Kind of a common message around this time. It's also filming this around eclipse season. So again, big changes just could be required in general. If you feel like the universe is forcing you to take a major leap, whether you feel ready or not, and you're really getting that message and you feel like it's time, and you're not putting yourself in danger in some way by doing so, I would highly consider it, honestly. I feel like it is time. It's time to take certain leaps. I feel like I feel like the earth signs have been getting this message like the past couple weeks as well. And again, I know it's not, I know, it is timeless. So, but I don't know. Anything else for the earth signs before we move on to the next reading? They're showing that quote, April showers bring May flowers and things like that. They are showing the April showers. But they're also showing like April sunshine and joy. And I know May is like tomorrow. So I feel like you are getting the right mix of like showers and sunshine. But I feel like overall you actually are being brought out of showers and things going wrong, or even just like some of these waiting periods in life. And sometimes it's surprising when it happens, because as we kind of get comfortable in a waiting period or in like a process, we kind of like don't expect certain things to like pop off or like change, but then they do. You're like, oh, that actually happens. So I'd say some of that's coming in. So don't expect things to stay the same is what I'd say with all that here. So I'm going to close that reading. There might be one more message here. I do like this message that's coming up. They're giving me the word fluff and just saying a lot of fluff is leaving. So that has happened in some of the recent readings that have come up. They don't like when I say that sometimes, so I'm sorry. It came out before I had a chance to stop, sort of. But there's certain amount of like fluff or like unnecessariness that are leaving, and I feel like you're getting to the nitty gritty of what's going to help you instead of dealing with certain things that might help you but don't, if that makes sense, which is good here. And I feel like I feel a little bit iffy on this message, but I will almost want to say effectiveness is the name of the game in some ways for some of you. It's kind of common sense actually, but I'd be focusing on what's effective in like business, in your world. If there is any fluff, try to cut out the fluff, especially like with how you spend your time even. I feel like that's going to be helpful. And that doesn't mean like don't rest or don't take time for you or anything like that. It just means there's a lot of fluff that's going to get cut away. And I actually feel like you're going to be thankful for it, because you won't be spending too much time on things that are non-essential, or maybe you won't be spending any time on things that aren't essential. So, okay, we're going to move on to the air signs. I hope that was helpful. Do whatever was for the highest good for you and stuff. Hey there. Thank you for what you do. You're welcome. Thanks so much. My whiteboard skills are slowly but surely improving. I'm gonna be a whiteboard stud. Be very impressive. I'm joking around with that, but okay. So I'm gonna drink a little bit more water, and then we'll move to the air signs. Made it just in time. Libra here, perfect timing. So, okay. Okay, so if you have an air sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is for you when you see it. and got channel messages that came through ahead of time. And of course, my spirit guides, the angels, and source will bring through any additional information that's for your highest good. A beep booping whiteboard stud. Yeah. That's the air signs are Libra, Aquarius. I'm missing one. Hold on. Gemini. That's it. You know, I talk about the elements without talking about which signs are the air signs so much that not that I forget what they are, but I just don't have the habit of spewing the names out like some people do. Yeah. So diving right in. So if you okay, air sign, sun, moon, rising, for you when you see it, let's go. So the first channel message that came through ahead of time, this one was kind of funny because they showed, like, the first thing they showed me ahead of time, or one of the first things, you know how DJs have the records, and they do like the what's it called, record scratching, and they do the wicka wicka woo and stuff like that. And that was probably the whitest way I could have done that. So you're welcome, or I apologize, whichever you needed to hear. But anyways, my gosh, what they showed was like the words new record, and they showed this DJ taking an old record off, you know, the play track. I'm so sorry, my terminology is probably not exactly what it actually is called. And they put a new record on, and it was kind of punny, and they gave the words new record. They also showed it like an Olympic swimmer with this, and the message for you is like, it's time to go further than you've ever gone before. So like in work or business, or like try something for longer than you have, like give extra effort into things. So if you'd like to like get stronger physically, like typically you would have to like keep lifting heavier weights in life. And in life, like if you would like different results, like try going like than you've had, try going like further with things, like that little extra effort. So try new things. Don't give up if your current efforts have not succeeded in getting the results you desire. So I'm going to kind of clarify this a little bit more and try to go a little bit deeper in this message and explain it a bit more as well, and see what they'd like to say for all those things, actually, as I do. And the message for you guys to clarify, let me sit with it for a second. It's kind of like to simplify the message. I'm not saying you guys don't try hard or anything like that, but what they said is like, if you would like different results, like try a little bit harder, like try harder is kind of what they're saying. Like, for example, like maybe you want to get like a certain bod, and like you go to the gym for like, you know, a few months, and then you kind of fall off the schedule, which totally understandable. It happens to people. But they're like, okay, what if you tried going for like a year straight, and like you're really committed, and like you're really committed to like eating a bit better if you were trying to like get to a certain place with your health and your physical vitality. And like, what if you really like just took it further than you have before, or like tried something extra, like maybe you work out 2 times a week, but what if you did like 3 or 4 a week and like took it a little bit further? You know, maybe like you'd try a new business and you'd like get to a certain place with it, and then you'd like stop or quit. I've heard this example. Never mind. I'm not going to quantify it that way, but you know, what if you like kept going or tried like one more new thing before you gave up instead of where you would normally quit? Or like if you're in a relationship, like depending on the situation, like what you're intuitively getting, like what if you like, what if like there was what's the best way to say this? Because I want to get you guys stuck in any weird situations with that one. Like maybe you'd always tend to like walk away from a relationship after a certain time frame, and maybe it's time to like try to stick it out a little bit longer and see what happens. And they liked that one. So things like that. So try to just go further, put extra effort in, like try new things, like just give a little bit more here. Because that could give you more like the results you crave is what I'm hearing, or more of those results, or could just help you be in the right direction more, if that makes sense. So hopefully that makes sense here. And if you are already like giving it your all in some way, and you're like, what is he talking about? Just try something different. Try a different method and give it a different way of going. Oh my gosh, give it a different way of doing things. Mercury Mercury retrograde. So the next thing, they showed me a cricket, and crickets typically symbolize good luck, and they kind of showed me both the bug and the game cricket. Well, actually, no, they showed me croquet. Cricket's the British, weird British, sorry, it's like a similar to baseball, but it's British. So never mind. I'll get to what croquet means in a second here, but the message here is that good luck is on the way, and you can like create your good luck, your own good luck, by working harder. So I know that like good luck has been like a very interesting theme that's like cropped up in like just some of the channeling I've been doing, and for some reason they've been honing into it. I'm getting off track from what they actually would like me to say here, so I'm gonna get back on track. Sorry, guys. And for some reason with this message for you, if you would like to create more good luck, another recommendation is by working harder, is like kind of the first message talked about. The other side of this, like the croquet message, I find really interesting, and they're also kind of, I'm also kind of getting some, let me just sit with it. So with croquet, it's kind of a different message. Like there are a lot of these like metal like hoops you need to like hit the ball through to like get it across, and I haven't played croquet in a long time, but I remember like you set up these like metal archways and you have to hit the ball through the archways and like hit a post and come back the other way. I don't remember, but it's like if you've been feeling like you've had to jump through a lot of hoops, kind of like those metal hoops to like get something done or get somewhere or accomplish things, there are going to be less hoops. So I feel like you're going to have more of like a straight shot either to success or to like succeeding in ways you've been hoping for, or there'll just be less hoops to jump through in life in general, which will be good. If you're like around someone who is like always seems to have hoops for you to jump through, whether it's like a relationship or a family member or something like that, I'd consider, if you can, if it makes sense for the situation, like taking a break from that person and doing things your own way. If people just keep giving you hoops to jump through and hoops to jump through and hoops to jump through in your like relationship with them or in work or whatever, it's probably not going to change is what I'd say. Either unless you set a boundary or unless you start living your life differently in a way where you don't have to deal with that as much. So the next message that she gave me, the word truth, this has seemed a little bit common, honestly, for the air signs in these readings, but it has popped up for a lot of the other signs as well, just throughout the tenure of these readings. The message is like to be honest with yourself, pretty much, and like if there's anywhere you're not being honest with yourself, like being honest with yourself is going to set you free. There's a message also to never hide your truth from yourself and never swallow it to keep things comfortable. So if you need to like, in a way that's aligned, like speak truth to people, and it doesn't necessarily mean like punching people in the face with truth. And there's a whole dichotomy and discussion we could get into with this one, and maybe I'm just picking up on something one of you is thinking about. Is it okay? They didn't want me to say that. Backtracking, but sometimes there's like people who will just like spout their opinion about anything, like loud and abrasively, and they'll just be like, I'm just calling it how I see it, and they're just like, but there are like higher and better aligned ways to like speak truth sometimes. There's a channeler I like to listen to named Lee Harris, or I've listened to a lot of his work over the time. In one of the things I watched from him like years ago, and I've never heard him talk about it since, he talked about like higher harmonic like leadership, or like speaking truth in like a higher harmonic way. And what he was saying about this was like, being able to speak truth in a way that's like not just like bam, like punching people in the face and like being like awful to people. And being able to speak your truth in like a kind and like aligned way that is like going to be helpful for them and received maybe in a kinder way. And some people don't understand nice or don't hear it, so you kind of have to gauge like who you're talking to and trust your intuition on it. But it reminds me, it's a little bit different maybe, but reminds me of that, where maybe it'd be better to approach things in that kinder way, but be honest with people in ways that are aligned and for the highest good of all, is what I'd say. And not swallow things to keep things comfortable. Like I'd be a little bit okay with gently rocking the boats instead of swallowing your truth and just like getting steamrolled by people who are doing things that aren't good for you and you need to set boundaries with, which might not have been the best way to phrase it, but And, you know, sometimes allowing people to keep going with like a certain way they're behaving or a certain opinion they're living out actually isn't the best way to go. It's actually not the kindest way, because you might not want to like hurt someone's feelings, or you might want to not rock the boat. However, if you don't say something, and I never want to like, what I'm hearing, and it's not what I would typically say, but what I'm hearing is like, you might be the only person who like has the opportunity to get through to them and get them to change a certain thing. What I would typically say is like, well, the universe is infinite and unlimited, and there's like infinite opportunities for the universe to correct something. That would be my personal thing I'd say. For this instance, in this scenario, you might not realize the impact you would have by you speaking your truth, or the chain of events it could set off with this person, even if they don't realize it right away, but through the course of other people saying things, or them going through other experiences with things, like learning more of the truth of what they're doing or saying, or things about, you know, the things they're doing or saying things regarding, and changing their ways in the future. So don't let people steamroll you, and being honest in a kind way might be the best thing you can do, is what I'd say with that one. So yeah, but anything besides that, like anywhere you need to just be honest with yourself about anything is going to set you free. So I'm going to tell you about something else, because they're saying it's going to be very helpful for you. There was one time I was listening to, I think it was a podcast. It was the Possibility Explorer podcast by Dr. Dane Here, who works with Access Consciousness. And I guess like if I were to give you some more full disclosure, those two are probably people I personally have listened to more over my journey, would be Lee Harris and Dane Here. Honestly, there's more, and there's a lot in my personal world and experience, and you know, of course, with my own channeling and intuition, that's also been part of my journey. But you know, one thing he talked about in that, I think it was one of the episodes of that podcast, is he talked about how sometimes, and I'm gonna try and like paint it in the way where it landed for me, where it kind of like clicked more and was helpful, and maybe a different, I don't know, I'm just gonna say it. There was something he said where it was kind of along the lines of like, when we like hide things that we actually like desire from ourselves, or we like lie to ourselves and tell us we don't want this thing, even if we do, because we're afraid like if we actually desire this thing, we're a bad person, or we're XYZ thing that people would judge us for if they knew that we desired this thing. Sometimes that can keep it away from us. Sometimes is what he was saying in this podcast, whether you want to buy that is true or not, or it feels true to you or not. So for example, the way it kind of landed for me is maybe you desire a ton of money, maybe, or maybe you desire to date someone that is very attractive to you. And you know, maybe there's judgments from people around you, like if you grew up Christian, like, oh, that's shallow. You know, oh, money is, you know, there's all these beliefs about money. Like, this isn't true, by the way, but people might say things like money is the root of all evil. And so we think like, oh, am I a bad person for wanting these things? I'm going to hide that I want it from myself, or I'm going to pretend I don't want it, because if I want these things, that means I'm, you know, a bad person, because this person's going to judge me as shallow, and this person's going to think, you know, I'm just in it for the money, and this person's gonna think I'm doing it wrong, and all this stuff. And so what he was kind of saying is like, you know what, if you just kind of acknowledge you actually do desire those things, even if people would judge you for them, and you're willing to receive like, yeah, maybe if I got those things, people would judge me for them, but I'm going to be okay with that showing up along with this thing, and just realize it's going to happen, and find a way to either be okay with it, or know that you'll be able to set the boundaries with those people if it comes up, and know that it's really more about your life and the life you desire to live. And there's not necessarily, you know, that could be something that actually brings a lot of joy and like, you know, appreciation for you for life in the world, if you allow yourself to work towards and have these things instead of hiding away your desire for them. But if you're willing to like be honest with yourself and be like, you know what, I actually do really desire that, even if other people that I've met or in this group judge it as XYZ and would judge me as XYZ for having those things. And maybe secretly they'd just be jealous, and that's why they'd shame you out of it, you know, or maybe there's certain groups of people that don't want you to, you know, what's the best way to say this? Because I don't want to I don't know. I don't want to get into some of the things I was about to get into, but what's the best example I could get into for this? If it would be helpful for you guys, and that would be that's good for me to get into. Like maybe you dated an ex and they didn't want you to be into a certain type of person or body type because it wasn't who they were and it wasn't their body type. And so like anytime you'd show any interest in this, they'd like shame you out of it and be like, oh, you're a bad person. Oh, that's so shallow. Da 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 da. But you should just be interested in me. You know, things like that. They're a little bit more coming from a wounded, insecure place, of course. And I'm getting this is a better way to describe it. So that's good. And it's like, maybe you'd be like, oh, I'm a bad person if I desire this kind of person with this body type because this person who doesn't have it is calling me a bad person, and maybe you just feel it was making them insecure and you didn't want to do that to them. I don't know, all these things. But I wouldn't like take away your desires or what you truly desire just because someone else is insecure or wounded or couldn't handle you being into what you're actually into, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind is what I'd say. And I'm trying to, if that triggered you or you found yourself like, oh, I've done some of those things on the other side, like the wounded or insecure place, I'm not trying to say you're a bad person for that either. I think that could just be something for the few of you that happened for. It could just be for your awareness to be like, oh, okay, I've noticed that I've done that in the past. Maybe that's something that's for me to look into and heal and maybe really examine. And you don't have to judge yourself or beat up on yourself for it. It's just, we all kind of come in and have the influences from our parents and from society. And we all have these things that kind of crop up sometimes, whether you want to call them the shadow side or things like that. And sometimes it's not even ours. We just bought it from other people. So I don't know. Hopefully that's helpful though. And for some of you and helps unpack some of that. Cause those were some of like the concepts like that, where it was like, not hiding things from yourself and being willing to like receive things. Like another example of the being willing to receive things is like what I had to kind of come to terms. Should I use this example? I'm going to do a slightly different one. One of the things that could come with having, like if you wanted to be a movie star, one of the things that might come with being a movie star is people like being critical or people being like, I hate that actor. And for no good reason, they just think that, you're an asshole for no reason. They just have their own projections and stuff. And like, if you want to be a big movie star, sure, you can manifest or get to this place where maybe you're magnetic to a place where you don't have to deal with that as much because of the place you've gotten to. But on the flip side, you might have to get to a place where you're okay with that being there and being part of you getting to this dream you have. It could be helpful to help you open to receive it if you're like aware and okay. You don't have to be like, yeah, bring on the judgments. Bring on the people thinking I'm an asshole for no reason. But if you're just open to that, acknowledging that might be part of it, it might help you be open to receiving the bigger dream. And that may not even be as much of a part of it as you were afraid of. So I know I went on a huge tangent, but I hope just delving into those topics was helpful for you in some way. But be honest with yourself and what you desire and just in general. And I feel like that's going to be good for you. And it could be even in slightly different ways than the topics I brought up, but oh my gosh, I feel like I just rolled through a lot. But let's move on. Funny enough, the first thing I have in the next message is keep things moving. So let's keep things moving. But the next message, keep things moving. They just said that stagnating is not an option. If something feels stagnant, it's time to change it. So it was great. Perfect. Thanks for telling me. So if something feels stagnant, I'd just say it's time to inject some change into it or see if there's something different you can do about it. I'm getting this message that things just aren't meant to stay stagnant right now. I feel like the universe is going to like get things rolling or keep things rolling. And I feel like the more you're helping that process within a certain amount of I don't know. The more you're helping that process, the better is what I'm getting. Because then you're moving along with the energies instead of, against them. And you're not trying to like hold on to things being the same and forcing the universe to play a few cards to get you to let go and things like that. So keep that in mind. I'm kind of getting a quick message. I'm going to move to the next message. If they want to bring through what they were just about to bring through, I'll let them do that at a different time here. So the next message they gave me was spring cleaning. They said the universe is spring cleaning your life and bringing you to a better place. Pretty self-explanatory, honestly. And it kind of actually makes a lot of sense along with the keep things rolling, keep things moving message as well. If anything is stuck, I don't feel like it's going to be for long. And if something is like stuck for a long period of time, I would kind of try something else. It's kind of, what's the best way to say this? Like maybe you keep trying to work on a project and it keeps getting stuck and it keeps getting stuck and you keep feeling stuck and you keep feeling jammed up on it and you keep feeling stuck. It's like, yeah, maybe it's time to try a different project or something else and maybe revisit it as you feel called to. And maybe it will flow at the right time. Maybe that's just one that needs to, be kept on the shelf for a while as you go in the directions the universe would like you to go. So keep that in mind as well. I do feel like there's a lot of destiny, because there's something about destiny coming in here for you guys as well. Like there might be certain, and this came through in one of the readings I did recently. But there was a message about a lot of destiny cropping up for people, and it might kind of make sense with some of the astrology going on. I'd say I tend not to lean on the astrology with the readings. I just do my best. I mean, I just channel the messages that come through, and oftentimes it seems to line up based on what people who do work with astrology more seem to say. But what's the message here regarding the destiny and things like that? There are just a lot of destined changes coming in for you and potentially everyone here as well. So that's going to be part of this not stagnating thing. And when something's like destined to happen, like the universe will make it happen. Like it's kind of hard to get out of is what I'd say. And I never want to pigeonhole you or limit you. Now I remember that came through in the channel messages for May that I was doing in the newsletter, which actually that's free and it goes out tomorrow if you feel drawn to it. If not, no worries. Let's keep going. But a lot of like potentially destined changes and things like that. And again, it's not to pigeonhole you or like take away your free will. It's just things you might have signed up for as a soul. And you don't have to take that term literally. It's just the way I say to help you get an understanding of what's going on or, things like that. But there could be a lot of that going on in the future or near future, or at least in the future for you. So keep that in mind if things change. Like the universe will play its hand if it has to. And you probably would like to be going along with the universe, not against it. And yes, you can make asks, you can manifest, you can work with the universe and ask for different things and ask for things to go a certain way. And I would, honestly, if you feel called to do that, even try that, because sometimes even with like certain destined events, you might be surprised, or especially like astrological events, you might be surprised how much sway you have over like the ways certain things go, or some of the directions things go if you're approaching it from a certain place of empowerment and creation. And working with the universe, if that makes sense. You get it. So I'm going to move on. They're saying you get it. So thanks, guys. Next message, they show me just the word crystals. They just said, it was kind of a message and a reminder, like, and this seems like it's a common theme today in a lot of the different readings in different ways, but they get this message, like you wouldn't just go to like any shop for crystals with any energy. And I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but there are some weird ones out there, and I wish there weren't. But there was a place I lived, and I think there was like 1 or 2 crystal shops that my guides would, it's not like the word let me doesn't apply very well, but every time I'd like want to go into a shop, they'd be like, no, don't go in there. Never go in there. And there were like multiple places in this area I lived that were like that. But there were like 2 shops that were like, strictly, they sold crystals that they were like, yes, you can go there. In one of them, I don't know. Never mind. I was about to say things and they don't want me to say them, but so you wouldn't go to just any shop with any energy. So don't put yourself around just anyone or anything. Like really examine the energies of the people and things you're around. You don't have to get like a hypochondriac's not the right word. Energetically germophobic about it, if I were to put it into a word. But awareness is key, and if you notice something or someone's affecting you energetically, just don't keep putting yourself, especially in like a way that's not for the highest good, don't keep putting yourself around that. Don't keep doing that to yourself. Like in some ways your energies I don't know if I'm saying this totally perfectly, but they are your home. Like this is a big part of your experience. So um, don't just like give that portion of your experience away or allow just like anything into it, to sway your experience. Does that make sense? Because your energies are probably going to have a lot to do with how you feel and potentially how your experience of life is. And that also I'm getting right now has a lot more to do with like our health or even like our mental and emotional health than people realize sometimes. And I'm not just saying because you got to around an icky person on the street on accident, you're screwed or anything like that. And I'm not saying you can't correct things and cleanse and get to a better place. And I never want you to feel like, oh, you went to the wrong crystal shop, you're permanently damaged, because that's not true. But with regarding the things you're doing consistently, pay attention is what I'd say. And I know that for some of you, that's probably some basic information. For some of you, it's just a reminder you needed. So keep it in mind. Next, they showed me an elephant who showed up a lot today, but with elephant, they just said, an example and a recommendation for you is to go within and your obstacles will be removed. Sounds corny, but just trust us is what they channeled through. So you might be facing certain obstacles or certain like rubbing up against people or certain people in your life. And I don't think egregious is the right word. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. I think I've only read that word. But you might be brushing up against people in certain like thorny ways or things like that, or obstacles. But they're kind of talking about just taking time to really go within and get clear on yourself, whether it's meditating, journaling, channeling for yourself, whatever it is you do. And that's going to remove obstacles. And it's really interesting because sometimes when these messages come through, it's like you go within and you get the direct like information. You're like, oh, I get it. And sometimes, weirdly enough, if you just do it, the obstacles get removed, even if you're not sure how. And sometimes there can be a little bit more of some interesting things like that. I'm not going to quantify it either way for you. I'm going to let it be whatever it is for you. So maybe there's something in your energies where if you get still and get in tune with yourself, things start to clear and you get some more clarity, or the messages you need come in or something happens. So I would just take time to go within to help with obstacle removal. And there's one more message there. Okay. They're bringing the termite back with this message as well. They're just saying that pests are leaving, and that could be literal and physical for some of you, like a handful of you watching, but it's probably going to be more metaphorical for most of you, where emotional pests or things people said that stuck, but they were like kind of more ideas you wouldn't want to live by, or ideas that aren't true, and they're kind of, maybe every time you go to do something, like your grandma's voice pops in, like saying something, and you're like, no, I really desire to get this, move this direction. I'm getting this is the right direction to go. And so a lot of those pests and things that are bothering you are leaving, and you're in that phase and that cleanse for that to happen. And cleanse seems to be a word that's showing up a lot today as well. So that's it for the air signs. I hope that was helpful and did whatever was for your highest good. Boop, boop, boop. Oh, I'm not even doing it on purpose anymore. I'm just booping. So I'm going to move on here. Boop. I'm going to drink some water. Was there's a chunker cat? Okay. So I could get distracted by chunker cats all day, but and I mean like literal cats that are chunky. I don't know. Anyways, we're gonna move to the water signs, sun, moon, or rising. And actually, I'm going to break that agreement. I don't want to create me being distracted by chunker cats all day. I have better things to focus on. But moving on to the water signs, sun, moon, or rising. I've got channel messages that came through ahead of time for you, of course. And my spirit guides, the angels and source, will bring through. Oh, thanks for the hat. That was cool. Cowboy hat. Thanks for all the gifts from anyone who's gifted me. And thanks for all the likes for anyone who's been liking. No obligation. I just want to say thank you so much. I also want to give a shout out to the moderators that are here today. I see China Moon Girl. I saw Destiny earlier, if she's still here, and anyone else who's here and I didn't acknowledge. I just want to say thank you for helping keep the chat clean and helping people out here, helping things run smoothly. I appreciate it. And shout out and love to you guys. So To the water sign, sun, moon, and rising. First thing that came through for you, this is a very strange one. The first phrase I heard was pillars of destruction. And the message is, if you've had a lot of destruction in your life in any period, whether it's recent or in the past, that is going to heal so you can have hope for the future. Hope is returning to your world, and you'll see how things can be better and that things will be better. So in a good way, you're getting a restoration of hope for yourselves and your world. And sometimes hope gets dimmed a little bit because we're listening to other people who don't have as much hope, or we're accidentally watching the news, or something comes up where maybe you just feel a bit dimmed down, and hopefully that's not you, or something like that. But I feel like you're getting an injection of truth and hope to keep you going. And just because that is more true is what I'm getting. So I feel like that energy could also be healing for you in general. So keep that in mind. And sometimes we go through like a lot of destruction. And, sometimes I said it earlier in the reading, sometimes destruction is like positive and it's something we want. We're like, yeah, I wanted to move. Woo. And sometimes destruction is painful, and you'll lose a lot through that phase, whether it was, whatever time period it is. And sometimes you kind of have to go through a recovery or a healing phase so if that's you, I feel like that's coming in for you, that healing coming in for you. So you just feel more hope and you realize things can be okay, which is good. Next, they showed me a mountain, and the visual, they almost use the, okay, thank you. They showed me a mountain climber, and this mountain climber was like climbing up the mountain, but he was hanging from like one of his mountain climber ropes things. And these like boulders were like falling down this like mountain as he was hanging there. And the message, and it looked a little bit dangerous, but the message was, the things that you think are treacherous are not treacherous. Things are much more divinely held than you realize. You are going to be okay. They also gave the phrase, don't look down, along with that visual, and like keep going up. If God sent you on an adventure, he will see you through the adventure. This line kind of hit me in a certain way. I almost wanted to like put it on Instagram. It's like an Instagram quote, but the message was, again, I'll say it. If God sent you on an adventure, he will see you through the adventure. Like, you're not going to be abandoned. Things are not going to go so terribly that your life is ruined. If God sent you on a mission, he sent you on a mission, and I use God, spirit, and source pretty interchangeably. So, supplement whatever word works best for you. The essence of what I'm saying. But if God, source, spirits, your spirit guides even, sent you on a mission, there's a reason, and they'll see you through it, and they'll see you to the other side, is what I'd say. So keep that in mind. Also, just things aren't as treacherous as they seem, is what I'm getting to clarify further regarding the ways the world works. There might be certain things that happen in the world, by the way, but regarding anything in your personal life, and sometimes they just would like to teach you to trust. And sometimes that's fun when it happens, and it's a great summertime in the sun, and sometimes it is a scary looking month, and I'm not saying you're going to have a scary looking month. I'm just letting you know right now, if you are, that's probably going to be okay here. Things will be okay is what they're clarifying. So next here, they gave a very quick quote, kind of along that line that all is well, things will look up. They're also showing like someone who almost seems like they're kind of at the like bottom of this pit. It looks like something out of like Star Wars, or like a movie where the main character gets stuck into this pit or something, and they have to like find their way out or whatever. So what's up with this pit here and this message here? So either you're going to be lifted out of something you've been stuck in for a while, and they are bringing back that song. It came through in one of the readings I did recently, but the Bob Marley song, Every Little Thing's Going to Be All Right, because they're singing that song as like you either get hoisted out of this pit or you find a way out of it. Or this pit might have been like keeping you safe in a way. Like maybe you accidentally, metaphorically, of course, fall into a pit, but then like a storm ravages the lands, and then you get lifted out of it after the storm passes and you're okay. And like all these other people had all these other things happen, and you're like, whoa, I guess I was kind of fortunate in a way. So, another way they're phrasing this is, if you feel in the depths of despair, you're not going to be much longer, which we kind of already said with the hope message, but I also feel like it's kind of time to leave a pit if you've been in one and you know the way out, or you know the path you can take to start helping yourself, it's probably time to start climbing, is what I'd say. Not all of you are there. Some of you might be in something similar to this metaphorically without realizing it, and you're going to be okay as well. But, that's the message, I guess. Okay, and maybe like you'll get a sign or some type of indication or a conversation with someone that's synchronistic where like that's kind of shown to you. I don't know. Maybe it's a money pit, but I feel like you'll be okay. Next message, they showed me the sun and said, anything else they want to say with this? I don't know. They just said most of you will be okay, and if you're not okay, you're going to be okay. So there we go. Next message, they showed me the sun and they just said, be true to yourself. And the sun will shine. Kind of self-explanatory, but I'd be living life in a way that's true to you and that aligns with you. I wouldn't be trying to like copy other people or trying to make your life look like theirs necessarily. If you want to draw inspiration, that's one thing, but really sit with like what you truly desire and like what your heart desires. And like, if you can do that intuitively or in a channeled sense, that can be really powerful as well. Cause then you're like getting that information. You're not just trying to like think it up, if that makes sense. And sometimes, to borrow from, I think it's a concept from Abraham Hicks, actually, who, full disclosure, I don't listen to very much. That hasn't been something I've been as drawn to for whatever reason. But one thing I heard it was someone actually I knew who talked about Abraham Hicks all the time. And they talked about this thing called contrast, where sometimes you run into certain things you don't want, and then you realize you don't want them. And that kind of tells the universe like, oh, not this. And then you can start to move into the things you do want, or you walk away from the things you don't want, start to manifest the things you do. Oh my God. Walk away from the things you don't want because you're kind of like realizing that, and you can manifest and move to the things you do. Excuse me. And maybe I'm not bringing that through perfectly. Sorry, I have neighbors and sometimes they like yell and stuff. But hopefully I can move into a situation without neighbors soon. But maybe that's the pit you were in, where it was like realizing a bunch of things you don't want, and then like moving out of the pit is, they didn't like that example. Sorry. They kind of liked the first part, but you know what I'm saying. So where are we going with this? I need to retune in and ask them to we'll just go back to the simplicity of the original message. Like, just know as you are living more true to yourself, things will be looking up, is what I'd say. So next, this message, they showed me a scorpion. I'm not a fan of this message. They showed me a lot of like intense visuals along with that I'm not a fan of personally, but I'm going to read this to you and hopefully this makes sense for you guys. But with scorpion, they just gave the message like, beware of poison. And it could be substances, people, anything, and like get very clear on like what is good for you and not good for you. I feel like I've been harping on this all day for like almost every reading, but this one seemed a little bit more intense. But they almost kind of said like, this is your warning. Like, all of you are going to be steered away from poison. Like, heed the warnings when they show up. I feel like it's very important that you are not ingesting poison of any variety. So even things like alcohol, toxic substances, certain people, the news. And I don't know if detox is the right word for me to bring into this either, but it's just like very, very, very important you're following your intuition with this for some reason. That's literally what they said, is it's very, 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 very important. So if you're like thinking about a person, for instance, and you like get the synchronicity of like a ton of scorpions with them, or like a job or career path, and you start seeing a ton of scorpions as you start to, go to that career path, or it could be a warning sign that's specific to you that you have honed in with the universe. Whatever that is, like, really pay attention to that right now. I don't know why I'm so like stuck on this message and saying it's very, very, very important, but I am for some reason. So hopefully this is making sense for you, and you're able to equate like what's going on in your life regarding this message, because just stay away from things are toxic. And this isn't an excuse to like not use your intuition or to not know. Because if you can, you should, are the words I'm hearing. I know there's like all this don't shit on me stuff. I don't know. That's the words I heard. Those are the words I heard. But if you aren't sure, like that's one thing, there can be a bit of grace around those circumstances from the universe. But if you know something, like really pay attention to that. Really like, yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on. So the next thing they showed me a canyon, and the other side, well, not the other side, but the next message is like they just pretty much said that God, source, spirit is keeping you from falling. You know, like someone falling off a canyon side or something like that. I really feel like, again, we kind of already had this message for you with like the mountain climber, but it's kind of just seems like certain things like really seem precarious for you, but they actually aren't. It's the example they're showing me really quickly is if you've ever seen those VR, the virtual reality things where there's like a wooden beam or something that's just like 2 inches off the ground, or like a wooden plank, and then people put on this like VR headsets, and like in the VR experience, what they see is them like walking on this like steel beam like above the cityscape, and they could like fall off, and like, you know, it seems very precarious to them, but in reality they're just walking across a wooden beam that's like 2 inches off the ground. And so sometimes like the people with the VR experience, they start to have the response like they are actually on a steel beam above the city, and like that response, you know, or bodily reaction and adrenaline start to kick in, and they start to have the you know, survival instinct response or the fear response. And like to them, they're like crawling on this like little wooden beam, and they're like, oh my God. And like to anyone watching, usually they're just like laughing, I guess, in like the videos I've seen. But I guess it depends on who you're with. Some people might have a bit more empathy, but and then like, you know, if like the person watching wants to be more of a jerk and like push them off the wooden beam, it's like they just like flop over onto the floor. But then the person's like, and you know, and things like that. So it might seem kind of like that. Like it's like you might feel like you're on the steel beam above the city. Maybe not that bad, but in a precarious situation, but you're like 2 inches off the floor, and spirit's like, bro, you're good. So keep that in mind. And that doesn't mean be careless, by the way, or it doesn't mean just do whatever you want. I mean, yeah, you can do whatever you want. It's your life, but within reason, with awareness and wisdom, you know, do what you feel called to do. But you know what I'm saying here. Things aren't just aren't as precarious as they seem. So let's see what else I'd like to bring through for the water signs before we part ways here. So the next thing they're showing me is a cricket. Again, interestingly enough, what's going on with this cricket here? So they're kind of switching it up a little bit. They're showing me a clock that with the hands just like spinning, and some of you are like worried about running out of time with like projects or things. I don't feel like you're actually going to. You know, some of you have this thing where like, oh, I need to accomplish this thing by the time I'm like 30, or, you know, some of you, I know a lot of you are not quite in the below 30 range, but it could be a different age that you're like, oh, I need to have all this done by XYZ age. And like, you know, you might actually be fine if you had it by like 35 instead of 30, or like 40 instead of 35, or something like that. I'm not trying to push things back for you, but the message is like, you might be more okay than you realize regarding some of the strict timeframes you set for yourself, like whether about projects or levels of success or having a certain person in your world, or things like that. If you understand what I'm saying. Beyond all that here, some of you are like afraid of running out of time in life before you experience all the things that you would like to experience. You know, some of you really do have time, and like you can be a bit more patient, and I'm all for like making sure you get the chance to experience what you'd like to experience. And as I've gotten older, I'm not even like that old. I'm 30 physically in age this lifetime. But as I get older, like the concept of someday I'm going to die kind of just seems to loom a little bit larger than when I was chugging monsters in my 20s or doing whatever. So it kind of starts to set in as you see like people, and some of you are so well aware of this that you don't need some young 30-year-old kid to harp on this for you. But for anyone this is helpful as a reminder for, you know, as you kind of see some of the people who are older in life like start to go through their aging process and deal with their difficulties. And you just kind of start to just get that grasp that you're not here in this lifetime in this body forever. I mean, your perspective really starts to change, but it also kind of starts to question, like, what do I really desire to experience here this lifetime, before it's, my time, or before it's your time. And there's something else I was going to say, but we'll see if they want me to say it today. Because it was powerful for me, but I'm not sure if it'll click the same way for you guys if I say it. So I don't feel like you're going to run out of time for those things. Most of you here, anyone who like feels like intuitively they actually are, I would kind of try to squeeze as much in as you can and make peace with it. But I don't feel like any of you are going to be dying soon necessarily, where it's like I mean, I don't know. Some of you just have vast things like, oh, I want to do this, and I want to be this. And maybe you might have to prioritize if it's like 20 billion infinite things in 20 billion different lifetimes, you would need to experience it, if I'm going to be very dramatic and trying to get this across. But you can all experience at least most of what you'd like to experience before you go. And I don't want to limit you in saying you can't. So what I would say is just like a manifestation is like, you can experience everything you'd like to experience before you go. So there, we can put it out there and try to at least manifest it regardless of how you feel. But why am I talking about this so much? I feel like the concept of mortality is a little bit important right now, and it could be important to keep in mind if you are keeping yourself in a situation you don't want to be in, or have things you would like to do but you're not doing them. And I'm not trying to freak you out and put you in fear about it. It's just kind of maybe a gentle kick in the pants to consider what you would like to do and experience before you're done here. Yeah. So anything else before we move on here? They're kind of giving me the phrase, you're a gem, and or there could be like certain gems coming in for you in life, where you get the gems of your life coming in, whether it's people or circumstances or situations or things that are valuable to you. So I feel like there are a lot more gems on the way, whether you are the gem and or are becoming the gem, or you're receiving it, or both. So that's cool as well. And it's not like fake gems like glass or anything like that. I feel like it's the real deal. So that's fantastic. Okay, I'm going to close the reading there. So I hope that was helpful and resonated and did whatever was for the highest good. And hope the rants and tangents were helpful as well. And most of I tend to just only go on them if I'm guided to go on them. So one thing I did want to talk about that they're telling me to talk about now is one time I just had this very vivid, it was like a vision, but it was more of like an intuitive visual and like knowing and message that hit me. And they kind of showed it as like me, but me on a higher level. And I don't like the word projecting, because I think it just gets used in too many different contexts for it to be like a good word to use when used in almost in like a non-negative sense, right? Because there's like all this stuff about like in psychology and all this other stuff. And then when people started saying projecting, I'm like, that just has so many connotations I don't even want to get into. But it was almost like a higher aspect of me, or like the soul level or highest self. I don't know what it was, but it was me like, again, not projecting, or like beaming myself to the earth and like this incarnation. And it was like from that perspective of like either the soul incarnating, and I know I'm butchering this, so I don't have the words for what it was, but I knew what it was. So bear with me. But what I kind of was getting and seeing with this was this knowing of like, I'm only here for this small window. And the knowing and thing that hit me intuitively was like, I might as well have as big an impact for the highest good and in the highest and best ways that I can possibly have while I'm here in this window. That was kind of the knowing that hit me. It's like, I'm only here for this window. I might as well have the highest and best, biggest impact I can have for the highest good. And, with a certain amount of balance, it doesn't mean I like do it to the point where I'm not enjoying my life and or like I hate my life, but I'm having an impact. I hoax. I think like enjoying it and loving what you do at the same time of having an impact could be almost an important part of having the impact. Because there are different things I've heard that have helped me where it's like, if you're suffering to help other people, it's like, what are you actually doing for the world? Because one, you're kind of setting an example of suffering for the people who you help. So you might just be teaching people, oh, go ahead and suffer. Two, as above, so below. And like you're a part of the world, so if you're in suffering, like that could be something. I'm not saying like it's your fault and you're bringing that to the world if you're suffering and putting yourself through that. It's probably just a lesson you're going through. But what is that doing for the world? And an as above, so below place. If you're putting yourself through all the suffering to help others, and like if we were all putting ourselves in suffering to help each other, we'd still all be suffering. So it doesn't make sense, So to balance that message, I'll say that. But I don't know. That could be part of the thing you consider when you consider you're only here for a set amount of time. Is like, what impact do you want to have, for people going forward or things like that, or for the world. So I don't know. Anyways, maybe the knowing of what I was talking about got to you as I talked about that. Okay, closing that reading. Thank you. So we're gonna move to a full channel mode message. Suffering does not make sense. Love that. That should be that should be a poster on everyone's wall. Maybe not should, but thank you, the authentic mystic. So you're welcome, guys. Yeah. So thank you. Okay, we're moving to the full channel. We're moving right along here. So as far as like a theme of what this full channel mode message is about here, maybe it will be a bit different than usual. We'll see. They are showing me they were showing me something, but they are also shushing me, so they don't want me to tell you. They're kind of saying this might be about like pathways, but maybe not in the way you'd expect. They're also showing me volcanoes, so it might be kind of about the time that you guys are in, but also like just some other either general things that would be helpful, or we'll see. Of course, it should be specific for you and the people showing up for this, but yeah. Totally. Okay. So, fully for the highest good. I'm going to give myself 1 second before we start because they're telling me to. I'm going to drink a little bit more water. So, who I channel, what I say is I channel my spirit guides, the angels and source, and that is true. The name my guides gave me for them after a while was the Angelic Collective of Zorbital. Before that, they were like, we don't really have names up here, that. And like, I'd also just had the results of what was happening as I began to channel more. So I knew it was good and it was of the true highest light and for the highest good. And it was accurate and like helpful for myself and others because of that. So I wasn't like worried about it before, but then they gave me that name, and it has a lot to do with the angels and the archangels and things like that. And I like to say spirit guides, the angels and source, because in truth, I'm also channeling true highest most infinite source and getting the information from that as well. So that's why I say that. So I don't know. And should I get into that? No, I was going to get into things they don't want me to get into right now. So we'll just jump into the channel message. So give me 1 second. Usually what happens is if for anyone new here is I start coughing a little bit, and then like they usually do like a little laugh, and then they just kind of jump in, but sometimes they just jump in. So give me like a little bit and we'll start. Welcome to today's channeled message. And of course, this is for you when you see this. If you are watching the replay, it is not just necessarily for those of you live. So you do not have to poo-poo this message if you are watching in the future. From when this was originally created, I think it is not for you. Bear with the message, and the energies will be there for you just as much for anyone who is live. If you were afraid of not getting as much out of the energetic transmission from source that comes along with these messages as well. So let's get to your pathways. There are a lot of pathways, possibilities, you could say, merging in the collective right now because you're headed more towards more of a faded time on Earth, at least for a brief window from whenever you are seeing this message. It could be a couple months, it could be as long as a year. But the multiple pathways that you might be used to having more so in your reality are going to condense down to more of the lightest and brightest, more of the greatest ones, because certain fated and destined events are meant to come in this time period for all of you who are tuning in. So this is not a removal of free will. This is not a removal of possibility for all of you, for in truth, it's actually birthing more possibility on the other side of these destined events that are coming in. And what do we mean by fated and destined events? Certain people that are meant to come into your life, certain trajectories that are meant to come into your life, certain jobs, certain changes, certain things your soul signed up for as a way to describe that, certain things in your contract, if we'll use that analogy spiritually to describe the things that are going on. And if we were to give you the energies directly of what we were talking about and the knowing, all of you would get it instantly. But in this instance, in these channels, yes, that can be a part of it for those of you who are ready and able and open to receive those knowings along with the message. You will get the realizations and claircognizant knowings and intuitive understandings you need from these messages to move forward in the proper ways for you. For others of you, we do still have to include the human words to provide a handrail for the message, to provide a guide for the message, to provide a map for the frequency that's being beamed to you from source and through this channeled message. So bear with us as we put things into human concepts and words to give the mind something to wrap around and understand as you receive what you're meant to receive from this. For you might not agree with all of our words or terminology, or the words or terminology we guide Brandon to use, or any other reader or channeler. And yes, sometimes the words of another may blatantly not resonate for you or your path at that time. They may not even be the truth. However, sometimes people are just doing their best to get a concept across to you in a way that will be helpful. Not all. You must use your discernment and the different teachers and people out there that are of different resonances and frequencies, because not everyone will be right for you in their delivery, and not everyone will be right for you for every certain phase of your existence on the planet. And sure, some people can grow with you or grow in their messages, and they continue to be the right fit for you for a lifetime, and that is okay. But we are saying all this so you do not get caught up in the words and take them so literally that you end up missing the actual message or the actual purpose of what's being said. Not many of you need that coaching, but some of you it would do you well to keep that in mind as you go forward and hear different channelers, speakers, self-help coaches, or people talk about circumstances in your life, especially spiritual topics. Certain spiritual things do not always have a physical, perfect human societal correlation to describe them with, and vice versa. Not everything that is a truth in the human plane about how things operate, especially in a human society, hold up as true when you go up to the higher realms and see how things operate up there. In truth, it's much different than many of you believe or suspect. It is all light up there, so you do not have to listen to the lies that there is tons of darkness or spiritual warfare in the upper realms all the time. Those are lies. Those keep you small. Those keep you afraid of your power and connecting to the truth and to source and spirit at the right times for you. And sometimes certain people might have had an experience that was more fear-based because they had a mental illness or an emotional imbalance that truly threw them off their rocker, and they took this information and thought it was true and just blasted it out into the world and made many other people afraid. So you do have to be careful with the messages you imbibe from just anyone out there on the internet talking about spirituality or the etheric or how things work, period. And your own barometer, your intuition, your felt senses, such as your energy sensitivity, your channeling if you channel, your ways of discerning the truth are very important in this time period because of how much is out there and how much fear is out there and how much people would take you off of a certain pathway of light because of their own darkness, their own wounds, their own projection, their own opinions, their lack of connection, and things like that. You getting honed in for you is the key. We say this so much. Some of you might be sick of this message, but it is a truth you need to hear. Your pathways are evolving and expanding rapidly. They're all going in a better direction. In fact, we would say your collective is uplifting and upshifting pathways through the destined and fated events that we were talking about and will continue to talk about here going forward. Because again, it might seem like things are being condensed, but it is opening up further, higher possibilities in the future, and it is demolishing the lower timelines that many of you could have experienced if things were kept the same without these fated or destined events. So you could see these fewer trajectories that are opening up, these condensed timelines as bridges in a way, or pathways that get you to the other side, get you to a different continent of your experience. We could use an example of the land bridges that have come up in your Earth's history when certain ocean levels lowered to show that there was a land bridge between certain continents. It's a bit like that sort of a journey. It's a mass exodus to higher consciousness. That is what's going on right now. So if you feel like certain possibilities are taken away, certain pathways are taken away, certain things tank in your life, certain things are removed, we would actually say you could tell the universe, thank you. Thank you for the higher possibilities that are coming in. And that is trust. If you are willing to trust that if something is taken away, there is a reason, something better will come in, or you will learn a lesson from it, and then better will be restored, you are in your power. Because you are not in fear, you are living in tune, you are living in trust. And trust is a key theme for all of you and for the world right now. And those of you who are living more in tune, and those of you in the world who are living in more in tune, are living more in trust because they have the connection. They have the intuition, they have the accurate information, or they at least have the experiences through all those things that they know they are taking care of or will be taken care of. So how can you hone in trust for you if you do not feel you are there yet? How can you get there more? Well, part of the reason we are bringing this through is so you can get there more, because we are telling you to trust. Source would not put you on the adventure if Source would not see you through the adventure. Source would not put you through this lifetime if you are choosing to live of Source and of the light, if it would not see you through this lifetime. And many of you need to know you are safe on the etheric and in the upper levels. A lie would be that your souls are in danger. They are not. No soul is in danger. And anyone trying to tell you that your soul is in danger is either lying through their teeth or they believe it themselves, but they are not coming from a true, accurate, aligned, source-based place. They are coming from a lower, fear-based place. Your higher selves, your actual etheric higher selves, are safe. You on a higher level is safe. So perhaps some of the fear and worry and concern that kicks up is on a human level in your human life. That is fair. Those are, again, inbuilt mechanisms to keep you alive so you do not just walk into the tiger and get eaten. That is by design. That fear is not necessarily meant to be projected up into the etheric, though we understand why it is. many of the concepts spiritually are a bit amorphous. So if someone gets on TikTok or YouTube or in a magazine and starts spouting nonsense or fear or all these things you need to watch out for, or even worse, if there's a book with a well-touted practitioner and all this public clout because they are in a published book and this was touted by a publisher, and perhaps there are all these marketing ploys such as quotes and testimonials that they may have not even gathered in a heart-based or aligned way, by the way. Some people do, some people actively strive to do this, but sometimes there is a publisher and they just write a quote and ask someone that's famous if they can put it on this book. So watch out for that, and public clout is not a better barometer than your intuition ever. There are many people on these social media platforms that have a lot of followers that you'd be very surprised at how they actually operate in the world. And if you're intuitive, you'll be able to read this and steer clear, by the way. But you might even be very surprised by some of the spiritual leaders you have listened to or even listened to. We are not saying you to be distrustful or mistrustful. We are not saying you need to have a suspicious eye of every single person who's out there talking about spirituality, but this is your heads up. And this is your heads up to trust yourself as you get more in tune, or if you are already in tune, over everything being put out there at this time. But you do not need to be afraid of what's in the etheric. So you can lay that fear to rest if you are ready. You can live your life knowing you are divinely protected up there, yes, but in truth, many of you don't even need divine protection up there, because what is there to harm you if what's up there is the light? And you could try to throw all of these frameworks and understandings of the third dimension and the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension, what's in the fourth dimension and what's in this realm and what's on this layer of things. We would ask you, are those things true? Were the people who touted those frameworks of understanding of the universe coming from a good place and an accurate, connected, aligned place when they sold those frameworks? And are you potentially creating those things by buying into them? Just a question. Just a question for you to see what's true for you. You see, the maps, the frameworks, the things that don't belong are going to get disproven along the way. And as you get more connected and you get more in tune, you will potentially be the one disproving them for yourself. Perhaps a few others, perhaps many others. But that is what this world needs, is a demolishing of the old frameworks, all the fear that's been sold, whether it's by religion or other groups or other people. And you will be the ones who undo those things, because you are the ones who can get in tune. And yes, there will be others in the world besides Brandon, besides this group that are listening to this message. But you have the opportunity to do so. And even you just undoing it for yourself is powerful, because that will be in your energies. That will be in your aura, if you will use that term, as you move around the world. And that will be transformational for others, because they will be able to pick up that fear is not really there with you, that you have seen something else, that you are not coming from that place. And your energies have a greater impact on the world around you than you can imagine. And they can be your key codes to changing this reality. If you have a higher energy, you are changing everything around you to be higher. If you are embarking in a lot of higher exercises and activities, you are making them a part of you, and potentially your energy fields. You are bringing that with you. And you could become transformational just by your presence alone, just by your higher vibrational energies alone. just by the practices you've put in place for yourself, whether it's with channeling or energy healing, transformation on their own. And you can intend it, you can manifest it. A great lie is that you can't manifest you being a healing presence in the world. You would be surprised at some of the things Brandon has asked for and seen the indication that it's shown up in the outside world through signs and synchronicities, through things people have told him. So you can ask to be anything. You can ask to be healing just by your presence alone. You can ask to be transformational for the highest good just by your presence alone. You can ask to bring light just by your presence alone. You can ask for Source to work through you, moment to moment, day by day. You can ask to be a bastion of the light. You can transform into anything. In certain circumstances within reason. And if you start to go down the wrong path, Source will stop you. If it is truly not aligned, truly not a part of your mission, or would be detrimental, or Source would correct it. Because another lie is that the universe is not divinely guided. We would say Spirit is in all things, Source is in all things. So it's hard to tank things. It's hard to move against spirits overly much. That is really what we wish to speak with you today about, those topics. That is for the highest good transmission we wish to deliver. Really, this one was about bringing your path to a higher and better one. It was also about dropping some knowledge about what was going on, though. So you did not freak out about certain events, ways certain things went. So perhaps it was a spoiler on an etheric level for some of you. But that is okay. You are here for a reason. So we leave you there. We wish the absolute highest and best for each of you. We know you will do great things. We know you are on the right track. And even if you don't seem like it or feel like it, you are. And you will get there. So without further ado, we will sign out. Farewell for now. And take care. May the highest and best to transpire. There you go. The Sharia. I'm so sorry, Sharia. Spoiler alert, it will be okay. I love that. You're welcome. Beautiful, perfect. You're welcome, Ruda. You're welcome. I am having a great day. Doing the live, feeling great. Do you feel drained after receiving that transmitting? Oftentimes I feel energized, actually, with like the full channel mode message. Oftentimes I actually feel really good because there's a lot of, there's like divine energy flowing through potentially or something akin to that, I actually feel pretty good. So, Brandon the Magic Dragon. I love that. Thanks. But you guys are welcome. Hope that was great, of course, and to just all that would be the highest and best for it to do and was helpful. So I'm getting to do some guitar, some Reiki Infused guitar. So maybe for about 20, 30 minutes. I've been here for 2.5 hours now, so I do potentially have to use the restroom, but I know that's not good for engagements, but it is what it is. So I'm going to go take a second. I don't have it in the room. I'm going to have to step away. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to step away and go grab the guitar and potentially use the restroom. Appreciate your insight. Wondering if tricksters can intercept messages and their purpose. No. No is what I get. I feel like the only way that would happen is if someone was at a very low vibration and trying to do it. That's like very low is what they're saying. That's the only time it could happen. So what I'm also hearing is oftentimes when something like weird happens, oftentimes you want to look at the person trying to do it and their energies as the reason, not something weird in the etheric. And I know that goes against so many weird things people say, but I don't care. That's what I get. And people will say all sorts of weird things, and I'm going to speak what I'm getting, regardless of what people would scream at me in the comments for, because they're not the ones getting the messages and intuiting. And if they were, they wouldn't be saying those weird fear-based things. So, and yeah, I'm going to stand by what I said there. That is a fear-based thought. Yes, that is great. And, you know, okay, I was going to give a quote. I'll say it just in case it's helpful. No, they're not into it. Okay, I'm going to go at the guitar before we get into this spin. But I'll be right. Earth Angel feels like they're not on the right path. You will be on the right path. It's okay if you feel confused sometimes. You know, sometimes you're in that spin and then you get brought down and set on the right path, but you'll get there. Okay. I might stay for just a second. Do you sometimes easily forget what spirit is channeling after they finish channeling? Sometimes. I do sometimes remember a lot of what they talked about, but there are times where I'll do the channel message and I'll go rewatch it. I'm like, oh, that was pretty good. That's pretty wise. So I don't always remember everything that comes through. How did you get to hook up a microphone to a TikTok app? My secrets is because it is a USB microphone, but it's actually typically for cameras. I can't remember what it's called, but I think if you look up like Apple, I'm using iPhone, it's like Apple USB to USB-C converter. There's two versions. There's one where you just plug the USB into it looks like a little port that comes out of the, iPhone. I guess it'd be Lightning. Sorry. So USB to Lightning. And, there's one where it goes direct, but the phone doesn't supply enough power to charge or power a microphone, excuse me. But there's another version that's about like $40 to $50 that allows you to plug your phone charger, or I think it is actually a Lightning port. So your phone charger into it along with the USB, and then it allows you to power a microphone because you have power coming from the phone and the phone charger. So that is my secret to that. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go get the guitar. Actually, no, I'm going to stay for one more second because maybe there's something else I need to get to here. I'm curious, do sometimes spirit guides get bored? No, is what I'm getting. And I'm not saying you're doing this, but what they're clarifying is like the teaching here would be kind of like a human projection. Like humans get bored, humans hate things. So like spirit guides don't really have the human ego, right? Because they're not humans, or they're not incarnate human at the time that they're doing this. So they don't have certain things like boredom, and sometimes they might my understanding is they might deliver a message where they're like acting angry or showing themselves as angry. And what they're telling me is they're not actually angry. They're delivering it a message in a way you can understand so you get it. And for humans, it's like if someone's coming at you angrily, it's like, we really mean this. Or if they start speaking emphatically, like, no, never do this. Like, we really are serious, So there is a bit of nuance in it like that, but they don't really get bored or necessarily like angry per se or judge. They never judge. Judge is a human ego thing, of course. Animals don't even judge. Well, maybe certain animals that are hitting a certain level of self-awareness might a little bit if they pick it up from humans. Is a weird tidbit I'm getting, but who cares? That's I also feel like judgment is, or someone brought through a message recently that judgment is slowly like leaving the planet, and I'm all for that. So that's cool. But we don't get to chat enough. I know it is really. For your question, communism, I'm getting higher dimensional planes. You're asking, do spirits who channel messages through us exist in the astral or in higher dimensional planes? I'm going to go on a bit of a personal slight tirade as well. I don't like the word personally spirits so much, but I know it can be a semantics thing in certain instances. to me, like, spirit guides, angels, source, it all comes from the higher realms. It's all coming from true highest and most infinite source, like in a sense, even directly. When people have tended to, and I'm not saying this is you, but I've noticed when certain people in their framework start to say like, oh, you're channeling like spirits. Like to me, spirits are like the dead or like passed on loved ones. I'm not just channeling a bunch of random ass freaking spirits that are whatever's around. I don't do that. Like I'm channeling from source. I'm channeling from the divine. And if I do like any type of mediumship for passed on loved ones, it's protected. It's very, it's not just I'm just channeling random spirits. But I know I've talked to certain people. This is not my understanding and not the way I talk about it. But I remember I talked to someone and they were like, oh, I just use the word spirits for anything that's, not incarnate or anything that's like, so they would call like angel spirits as well. I mean, that's not my, not my understanding. But I've just noticed. So I'm not saying you're wrong, and I'm not saying that's the wrong way for you to talk about it. And I'm just saying for me, that's what I would say and how I go about it personally. But what they were telling me to tell you is it comes from the higher dimensions, or it comes directly from source, or above and beyond the dimensions is something that's come through that is probably going to be, maybe someone will get mad because it's not their framework. You can't go above the dimensions. I was shown and told that you can, so you can, or I can, I don't know. And I'm sure you can too, but that's just a fun fact, I guess. And like astral realm stuff, I haven't looked into it. I don't mess around with that stuff much. I don't really have a much that I like sit with and contemplate about it every day. To me, it's just another word, and people say it about a bunch of different things, and I'm curious how many of them know what they're talking about. But if I'm being straight up, and I know I'm getting a little bit sassy, but that's me right now, I guess. So hopefully that answers the question, I guess. Exactly. Yeah, lucky to be here. Yeah, angel energy is definitely different from the spirit of past loved ones. Totally. And that's the other thing that I've noticed is, I don't know if I should get into this, but if I'm channeling angels, the energy is a lot different that I feel than when I'm getting messages from a passed on loved one. It all comes from, for me at least, what I've noticed, and I don't know, maybe it's just how I operate or where I'm at with it. It's all been like fully accurate. It's all been from like the light, in like a higher place, or the highest place is my intention. But the energy of like, if I were to talk to my, dead grandfather, like I feel the energy much differently than like an angel or a source, or a spirit guides even. So it's, there is a bit of a differentiation, or even like a deity, like channeling deities is different as well. But as long as it's all of true highest and the source, true highest light, you'll get the accurate information. Or there's a difference between Pleiadians, Arcturians, angels when I've talked to any of those things. So just that's what I have experienced as well. So good point. Lucky to be here. That is the answer that resonates. Cool. Glad to hear it. I know I might have spun it into a rant a bit, but hopefully that was helpful for someone. What are your thoughts on the theory of the Earth being surrounded by a firmament? False is what I get. So it's not even what I think. It's just what came through as you said that. Sorry, we kind of got taken away from guitar, didn't we? We can still do it, but what do you think about deities? I think you're welcome. I think they're fine. And maybe you meant something different by the firmament than like I was thinking, but that is what I got when you said it. So deities are fine to work with. There are some like that my guides are like, yeah, no. Like Lilith is one I'm iffy on personally, and if you work with her and it's fine, okay. But there's a couple of where my guides are like, yeah. But I actually did like a whole like 25 minute channel on deities a long time ago, like a couple of years ago, because I was going to do a podcast, but I started it during Mercury in retrograde, and then I stopped doing it after like the first episodes. Because I think I did an episode 2, but like the whole thing I didn't like actually record, and like, but a lot of my experiences with deities and what I've gotten for people who work with deities is that they're actually safe to work with. To me, they're like I feel like I don't have the total best words to give you regarding everything, but in understanding okay, I'm going to ask them to just bring through what would be asking to bring through for you here. But for instance, like there would be times where, like I was talking to my sister one time and she was talking about how she was drawn to like work with Loki. I'm like, Loki, that's usually attributed with trickster energy. And the human self was like hesitant. I'm like, but like what I was getting was like, oh, he's helping you to avoid treachery. So, and, so usually when a deity or like Anubis, like some people are like afraid of like, I got a death, Anubis, he's going to drop me. And my experience was like I was talking to a person who was a friend at one point, and she was talking about like, oh, like I feel like called to work with Anubis, but I'm afraid. And like what I was getting is like, oh, he's actually helping you like overcome like your fear of death and helping you overcome like grief regarding like deaths that have happened in your life. So he's actually really helping you. Like you don't need to be afraid. And it kind of goes back to those fear-based ideas, right? People are like, so at least in the way I've approached it and I've been getting it, it tends to be of source. Like it's been of source, and whether you see them as aspects of source or the divine, or like a way that source or the divine presents itself to us to work with us, they like that definition or that explanation more. Because like the other experiences I've had, like people who are more in tune and intuitive and accurate and channel and have had a lot more experience with it, they'll kind of talk about how like different deities have shown up to work with them, like in dreams or shamanic journeying, and it's usually all positive and for the highest good, and there's nothing like weird or wiggity about it, typically. And there have been even some like very surprising ones that have shown up. Like one time there was a practitioner doing a reading for me. I'm hesitant to share this one, but there is like a deity that showed up that she was kind of a little bit more like, what are you doing here? Because they tend to, and I want to be careful with this because there are certain things you just might be like, no, I don't want to work with that, and I would trust that. But it was one that was like attributed to something that just like wouldn't be what you'd expect, or you wouldn't suspect was of the light, but they showed up and like she was like, what are you doing here? And then he kind of like got surrounded by light and he's like, you don't even know me. So I think a lot of the times these things, as long as you're approaching it, either approaching it in the right ways or you're in a good place yourself and you're, it's going to be fine if you work with deities. It's just another way to work with the divine or source. And if they're showing up to work with you, there's a reason, is what I'd say. So like, for instance, if you're going through a healing and all of a sudden like Anubis starts showing up everywhere, or a phase of life, or like Kali or another like Ganesha, another deity, like you get signs in the name, it could be a deity, usually for me, that's like that deity wants to work with me or is helping me with something, kind of like spirit animals. Like, spirit animals will show up at the right time. They'll help you through something. Some of them are with you for life. Some of them are here for a season to help you with a certain thing. So kind of similar, but, I also, the best way to kind of describe it and tie it all together, because I think that sometimes I don't want to take away from like, to me, and I don't know if this is the totally accurate or their wording for it. It's like, it's all, especially if you have this intention, like it's all of source. It's all of the true highest light. It's all of highest consciousness. It's all going to work in the ways it needs to that are for the highest good, especially if you're coming from the right place. Does that make sense? So I don't know if that makes any sense. And I know I lost a lot of people on some of that, so if you disagreed, okay. But interesting. Okay, they actually want me to go get the guitar now, so I think I'm going to go get the guitar. We'll do some Reiki Infused sessions, and I really wish I'm going to ask for better wording to talk about those things in the future, because I felt like I didn't get it out quite the right ways, everything I was saying, or maybe I didn't present it in the ways that would lend themselves to the right directions for all of you. So maybe take that one a little bit loosely, or with just a slight grain of salt, and go on your own journey with these and get your own experiences and hone in your own intuition and see what starts to show up. Because eventually you kind of get this, for me, or maybe you get this knowing that it's hard to put into words, or maybe you will get the words. I don't want to limit it, but you kind of get the energy and the knowing of it. You're like, know kind of how it works, but you try to talk about it and it just doesn't, I don't know, quite seem to get out of your mouth, right? So I'm going to go get the guitar I'll be back. Thanks for waiting. also, I'm not in frame right now. I have to use the restroom, so I'll be back. Hello. Oof. Okay, I need to adjust things so that you can see me a bit better. Because I don't know how much you want me to explain or how much it matters, but oh my gosh, how low do I need to set this? It's better. Maybe I just need to bring the chair up a little bit. Okay, so the reason I just dropped my chair down like this is because for me, the way I play, some people play like over their right leg if you're right-handed, or play right-handed. And like you kind of have the guitar over here. And there are some benefits to this. I was taught, and the way I learned was to play it on the left leg, which is kind of more of a classical style, but it can be better just body posture wise long term. And you kind of have to prop your left leg up on something to like keep your knee up to keep the guitar on it. And so I have to kind of prop my foot up on, on this office chair. There's a little like things that stick out, the wheels are on. I have to prop my foot up on one. So if the chair is too high, it's harder to prop my foot up on the thing. So that's why I'm adjusting things for anyone who is wondering about that. But okay, so for anyone new here, which I don't think is going to be many, but you probably are familiar, I'm just going to set some intentions, get some things going with like the Reiki energies and any other healing energies and modalities I'm guided to bring in. And we're just going to, what's the best way to say this? They're telling me to say is the Reiki will be flowing through me. Reiki will be flowing through the music. That's all you need to hear or know about that. So you'll understand. Let me check the tune. Okay, so give me 1 second to set intentions and we'll get right into that. So I'm just going to ask that the Reiki flows wherever it would be for the highest good for it to go, does whatever would be for the highest good for it to do, does all work that would be for the highest good for it to do, and all healing that would be for the highest good for it to do, and that only what's of the true highest light and for the highest good occurs regarding this session, of course. You know, the intentions might not have been necessary. It might have been just how it worked, and it typically is, but I sometimes just say them anyways. So you can just set the intention to receive what's asking for you to receive. I'm going to stay with it for just a second longer. So let's begin here. So we're just gonna maybe do a combination of just some songs I have, you know, that I either wrote or just some improvisation. So we'll see what comes through. So let's begin here. So the Reiki is flowing. Let's go here. I need to tune a little bit. Okay. So that's it. Just going to set some closing intentions. So ask that the angel of the true highest light watch over all that occurred today with that, and just the session in general. Ask that any and all Reiki and healing energies that float to you or were a part of this, of course, continue to work for however long would be for the highest good until any shifts and changes that are for the highest good to be completed are completed. And of course, I ask that they always only work for the highest good. And I ask the true highest angel of the true highest light to wrap up the session, whatever ways would be for the highest good, and do all else that would be beneficial for all regarding closing this session. Thank you so much. And we're done. So you are so welcome, and I'm so glad to hear it. Absolutely. You're welcome. I hope that was good for you. Body feels so light, extremely high frequencies. Perfect. That's exactly what we are rolling for. You're welcome. So good. Perfect. So glad to hear it. Oof, I'm feeling that one. In a good way, of course. I think I joined at the end. How long was the music for? It was amazing. First of all, thank you. I'm not sure. I want to say for the past 20 minutes, maybe 20 or 30. This is the feeling of the space I know exists. I'm guessing that is a good thing, and that is a great compliment. So thank you. Ooh, and 90.8 thousand likes. Thank you guys for all the hearts. I know you don't have to do that, and you're not obligated, but I really appreciate it. I'm going to bring my chair up so my face isn't hiding behind the mic. There we go. You remind me of Tyler Henry a little, very gentle. I'm not sure who that is, but I'm sure you mean that as a compliment, so thank you. So I am probably going to close the live now. It's been 3 hours and 20 minutes, 3 hours, 22 minutes now, so it's awesome when you naturally start singing with the guitar. I love your voice. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'd like to... It'd be cool if I got better at singing, too. Return of energy. Thank you, guys. Your messages have been spot on. Hey, that is always the aim, so thank you. How's it get even better than that? Will this be posted to YouTube later? Yes, it will. Probably tomorrow. Yeah. That was beautiful. Awesome. I'm so glad to hear it. Set the intention to get better. Yes, please. Let's make it even better. Well, source make it even better. Have an amazing evening. You too. Thank you so much for today. You are welcome. I love spending Sundays here. That means a lot, and I so appreciate it. And your voice is amazing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you, guys. I think I missed you at the later time. We'll catch the replay. No worries. Yeah, and just so anyone who is here, I am going to start doing Sunday lives at a later time. Probably, I know I started at 2 p.m. today, but I might start at 3 p.m. is what I'm getting. And hopefully that still works for a lot of you. I know that's a bit of a change, but if not, they will still be posted to YouTube. So, yeah, I just, mornings are a little rough for me, and it wasn't working. And I think, I think you still get the accurate message and things like that, but I feel like if I am at a place where it works better with my schedule, I can show up a bit better for you guys. Oh, heck yeah, Jessica. Heck yeah. Hopefully you be out there crushing it. You are. I'm getting you are out there crushing it in the best ways, so. Nearly midnight. Oh, dang. Yeah, and I know for those of you around the world, the time change might be a bit different too. So, okay. I might stay for another second, but I am going to close it soon. So I just wanted to say, okay, we can hang out till 100K or something. That's fine. But, oh, thanks, Heather Vibes. To me, it's good. Kids sleep. Perfect. I know. I understand. Actually, I don't have physical kids yet, but I still understand. And you guys are not obligated to stay and tap the screen, by the way. They are just telling me I need to go soon, so. Do a video about time change so people don't miss it? I will, thank you. Either in the story or I'll just make it a part of my posts on TikTok this week or something, so. Fairly new here, but I've listened before. It's a peaceful space. Awesome, and I appreciate that feedback, and you have a great day as well. And I'm glad to hear it, very glad to hear it, of course. You are welcome. Yep, everybody have a good... Oh, you guys are crushing it. Okay, you guys are hitting those like so fast that honestly, I'm very honored. I didn't realize they went up that fast. Thank you, guys. Aw. So believe it, for tapping the screen is because we are showing appreciation for you. I appreciate that so much. Well, thank you, guys. That's so cool, and that means a lot. And I already said this, and I think most of you are here when I said it last time, but I don't watch a lot of lives on TikTok, but I accidentally found myself scrolling through them, and I was looking at like just the amount of like viewers people had for different lives and different types of lives and how many like likes they had and things like that. And you guys always, it dawned on me how you guys give a pretty good amount of likes for the amount of people that we have showing up live for these. So I want to say I appreciate you guys for that, and I really appreciate it, and that's really cool. So, and also always honored to be here. Always appreciate you guys and getting to do this. It's always a joy to me to do here. I always feel typically always feel very joyful after these lives and after getting to interact with you guys and getting to do this. So it means a lot, and it's so cool to be here with you, getting to do it. And yes, thank you, Ruda. Thank you for the moderators, whoever was here throughout the live, or if you're still here. And I know, yeah, so and anyone else who helped out in the chat with anyone, I really appreciate it. And you guys are absolutely awesome. And yeah. So I do need to go. I'm starting to hit my space out phase. Oh, you too. Lucky to be here. Thank you. Oh, I'm here. It's cooking again. No stress. Yeah, no obligation to even watch. Yeah, thank you. China Moon Girl. Good night, Aurora Borealis 82. Good night. Okay, guys, you have a beautiful, whatever time it is, rest of your day or evening. You have a beautiful week ahead. I should be back next week. I should be posting around and stuff here. So I will see you in the future. Okay. Anything else I need to do before we go? I feel like I'm dipping out too early, but I think I'm just going to do it because we're already here. So, okay. Love you guys. Thank you.